The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 6 Waiver Wire Pickup Power Rankings Recap. Your viewer questions around like 11 a.m., like 10:55 a.m. Maybe we'll get to it earlier, but we're going to reserve most of the questions for that period after we do the recap and waiver wire rankings. Remember, if you're watching this, smash the like button, and if you do that after the fact, not the live version, the on-demand fact, because right now if you do a comment, it goes into the live thing. I won't be able to see it after the fact, therefore I could not award anyone some 20 DK dollars for the giveaway. So smash the like button, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section after the show is finished, and let me know whether or not you would use the number one waiver priority on anyone this week, because frankly, I don't see it. And if you do, tell me who it is, because frankly, I'm curious. I can see in deeper leagues, we'll talk about some guys that, yeah, I mean, if you really do desperately need someone, there's a running back you could go get for a plug and play for a few weeks, but I don't know how that's going to be going forward. I do have some winners from last week. Let's get to those before we bring in our guest. The Week 6 or Week 5 winners of the 20 DK dollar giveaways. They'll be in your account later this week. It is these people's names. I mean, it's so much easier when you have like normal names as DK handles, not a bunch of random mixed letters together. Cal YGX, that could be QX. There's the red line underneath my Word document, so I can't really see. J Lang 29, S Duran 75, Eric Kiddo 23, and Griff D 24. You, folks, are all the winners of 20 DK dollars. Now, let's get into the waiver wire recap, the recap of yesterday, the rankings, everything. But first, since he's not going to be on this Sunday's live show, which is back 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, it is Tim Anderson.
Tim Anderson.
That is not my name.
It is, and there's a question for you in the chat right away. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
The question for Tim is Darnold back to being Super Bowl Sam again, or is he just veered slightly off being CFL Sam?
Sam played great yesterday. He had Super Bowl Sam throws.
He of his 10 completions on like 25 passes.
He threw three.
He's great though, but you should put him in the Hall of Fame.
He threw 3 perfect touchdown passes, which you can't. Again, I said this last week. I stick to it. I'm not too concerned about wins and losses. I care about how he plays and how he develops. He's 21 years old. I saw somebody make this point on Twitter yesterday. I don't know who it is. I'd give them credit for it. But that Wentz is 26 years old right now. Darnold's not going to be 26 until 2023. Like the Jets have, I mean, Sam has the potential to be an all-time great just because of his age, not only just his talent level. So he played great yesterday. He did what I wanted him to do. He went up against a defense that smothered Kansas City on Monday night for the most part and did better than Kansas City did. So you're asking me if I'm excited about what I saw yesterday from the rushing and passing attack and the way Sam ran the game. I was very excited. You have to be if you're a Jets fan.
I don't know. I think the only takeaway that I would have is that it's super easy to run on the Broncos.
Well, yeah, it did help that the Jets ran for nearly 300 yards on the ground. But they also picked him up. I mean, Darnold stood in there and made a couple of big throws in big spots. It was nice to see Pryor finally get something on the go. It was nice to see him wake Anderson up. It was exciting. I don't know that I don't expect that to replicate every single week, but those are the types of flashes that I'm hoping to see going forward. It's they were exciting developments.
So if you don't care about wins and losses, don't we go back to our tanking argument from last week that you should just tank?
No, because tanking means you should intentionally try to lose. And I don't ever want the team to intentionally try to lose, but I'm just not too worked up about whether they... Now, listen, by the end of this week, if the Jets win against the Colts, which they're favored to do, and if the Chiefs take care of New England, we could very well have a 4-way tie at the top of the AFC East. I mean, so the season is not over or anything. And, you never want your team to lose. But at the same time, I'm not worked up about that or worried about that. I'm just concerned about development on the offense.
So 2 weeks ago, you picked the Jets to win the AFC East. Then after last week, you were done with the Jets. Now are you back in on them winning the division?
No, I don't think they're going to win the division. Because they'd have to win 9 games probably to do it, at least. And I don't think they're good enough to win 9 games right now.
But after week 1, you said they were going to win 16 games.
And I recanted.
But before the season, you said they were going to win 13 games.
I am aware of the things I have said. I told you, I'm in a zen place right now. I'm relaxed about them.
It sounds like you're in a zen place because they actually won. If they had lost like 30-10, it wouldn't have been good.
The only thing to be hopeful for is that all 4 teams in the AFC East are profoundly flawed. Any of them could fluke into 9 or 10 wins. But I just don't see the Jets being that team.
Maybe not. And the Patriots have like back-to-back weeks with tough games. Those could be 2 losses. I mean, let's say they end up beating Kansas City this week, week 5
that
or
would be
week
a
6.
Very impressive win. I will say that. Now, if the Patriots do that, I will be impressed. They haven't impressed me yet all season. If they do that, that's something. I mean, the last time they went up against a really good team, or even a good team, was the Jags, and they got their brains beaten in. So,
any big takeaways from yesterday? Because I had 3 favorite bets that were on the board. Yes, we can talk about betting again. It's fantastic. But I had Carolina, and Carolina was rolling in that game until that like Beckham to Barkley pass. Then they're like, I don't know what happened to their defense, but it got completely shattered, and then they couldn't stop it. And then their defense is fine. It's not great. It's not bad, but it was looking really good, and Eli couldn't do anything. And then they had this one trick play, and then they're like rattled for the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said this on the preview show, that the Giants have the better offensive talent. So if they could have just got their players woken up and do a few things, they'd be able to compete. And that is what happened late. Barkley, in particular, took over the game in some ways. And the Panthers were rattled. What they did at the end of the game was inexcusable. Like, that's the sort of thing that gets coaches fired, by basically throwing away a game and getting bailed out on, I think, the longest kick to ever win a game or something. Like, it was a fun game. I figured the Giants would hang around. The Giants are a spunky team. They have too much skill to get blown out of games week after week after week. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Carolina had dominated the game for the first 2.5 quarters, and then New York just said no. And New York played great late. So,
and the other one was Cincinnati, Miami, like 24 points in the 4th quarter, 2 defensive touchdowns. It's just like my 6.5 was looking so good.
Yeah, particularly the interception touchdown was such a fluke play too. You will never see a play like that again this season. It was just. Yeah, everything was rolling for Miami, and then because that Dolphins team is quite fraudulent, they just fell apart. And the Bengals are really good. We've seen that now week after week. They had that one hiccup against the Panthers, but other than that, the Bengals are as good as anybody in the AFC. That's not to say they're going to win the AFC or anything, but they have the skill level. If they put it all together, their best beats almost anybody else's best in the AFC.
Well, if they lose this week, they get Pittsburgh this week, they lose to that, then the AFC North is looking a lot like the AFC East in terms of records.
It is. This is a massive swing game. It's in Cincinnati. If the Bengals take care of business, they put people really behind the 8 ball, because they will have tie-break advantages, at least early, on the Ravens and on the Steelers. Yeah, and they still have to play 2 games against those crappy Browns. So,
well, I mean, the crappy Browns ended up with a big. Every time that you call them the crappy Browns, somehow they end up winning.
Yeah, again, it's just a fluke.
You really destroyed. That was my other one. I thought that, I mean, I got it earlier in the week. It ended up being Baltimore -3. I had it at Baltimore -1. I was like, hey, all they need to do is win this game. Then all of a sudden the curse comes into play, and no one can find the end zone for Baltimore. They can keep driving the ball. That's about it. Flacco threw for over 300 yards.
Yeah, they even showed on the screen at one point, like, Flacco hasn't thrown a pick in the red zone like forever, and the first thing he does is throw a pick. I'm like, oh God.
Do you think that the Ender curse is more believable, or the graphic curse of, like, you always see it in golf, it's like, well, he hasn't missed a putt inside 5 feet in like 89 tries, and boom, lifts it out.
I don't believe either. I don't believe in either curses. I don't believe in those sort of mystical things.
All right, question for you from Raiders 419.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, bud.
It's actually not about the Raiders. That's just the guy's screen name. He says, how do you feel about Subway getting rid of $5 subs and possibly adding in paninis instead?
Well, they already have paninis here in Canada, so I'm not surprised to hear that they're going to bring paninis.
I think it just turns into, like, I think the question is, like, I think it's like a $5 panini instead of like the $5 footlong.
Oh. I think the $5 footlong was a great promotion that they had. It's unfortunate that they're getting rid of it. But, cost of living goes up because you people all wanted to get rid of the penny and wanted to concede to inflation. The fact of the matter is that money will inflate and things will cost more. And therefore, you no longer can afford the $5 for a foot long. I mean, KFC used to do this too. They used to have that $2 meal. Then it became $2.09. Then it became $2.39. Now it's like $3 and something cents. Like, it's crazy.
All right. Dr. Tim, which should he shave first? His back hair, or chest? And which one is a healthier wax instead?
I haven't the slightest clue what that question means.
I don't really grow back hair, so I have no idea, but I do wax my chest. Waxing is where it's at.
I don't do any of that stuff.
So you gotta keep up on your grooming, Tim.
No, one can be groomed without waxing.
Why not? What do you like?
I'm not saying you. I'm not
you
saying
you don't even do a touch up.
I'm not.
It looks like you're walking around with a merkin.
Good Lord. I don't do that kind of stuff. Sorry.
Also, this guy also says that you are woke, Tim. See, finally, after years of telling you to get woke, you're finally woke. At least someone thinks so.
I am not woke.
Doug Baldwin killed a lot of people, killed myself.
Yeah.
So a big thing was, like, this guy even says, he thought he was being really slick. He had Eli, Odell, Arizona D, James Conner, Valdez Scantling, which is a pretty good lineup. He said Baldwin cost him around $400 in his DraftKings lineup this week. That sucks.
Don't tweet at him.
You say don't tweet at him?
Don't tweet at him about it. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he really doesn't care. He got his money, so he's fine. But he played like 89% of the snaps. He was always on the field. And like now people are kind of attributing it to like, oh, he's playing through injury very clearly. But I don't understand how this week he was playing through injury, but when he looked fine last week, he wasn't playing through injury. I just didn't think they didn't need to throw to him. Like they were throwing to that Chris Moore guy who scored 2 touchdowns, and they ran the ball down the Rams' throats the entire game, and he was blocking on every single play. So I don't think he was hurt. I think it was just a bad game.
Yeah, what Seattle was doing was working. So why switch out of an effective strategy? Like
I thought they were going to win.
It certainly had all the makings of it, but in the end, the Rams just had a little bit too much skill. I mean, you called the game to be close, and you were right to do that, and I didn't think it was going to be. Seattle has looked similar to the Giants. Seattle has shown more verve than I expected through 5 weeks of football, but their season's quickly crowded. Now it's a 3-game lead in the division. I mean, the Rams have all but now wrapped that up. Like that game was pivotal if Seattle had any hope.
And Arizona goes in and beats San Francisco as well. Now and the other 3 teams are just like over in that. Would you worry about having Rams players on your fantasy team?
I would worry about them
like playoff time.
When it comes to week 15, week 16. The only thing you can pray for is that the Rams don't lose a game. That's the only way in which you see Gurley in week 16 and week 17 is if the Rams are undefeated. I don't think McVay would be crazy enough to bench his players with a chance at an undefeated season. But if they're like 13-1 going into that game, yeah, absolutely, I could see that.
They probably won't be undefeated. They have some tough games.
They do. They have
through the mid-stretch of the season.
On a neutral site.
And sneaky thing, their all-time defense, not so hot.
Well, we don't need to name names, but we
can name names. Siege is a friend of the show. He came on the show and called them like the best defense. It's like the 2003 Ravens. They're not. Like they bleed yardage.
Yeah, their defense is okay, but it's not even the best in the NFL. I mean, Chicago's this season is better than whatever the Rams can throw out there. They certainly aren't as good as the Legion of Boom.
Yeah, from years. They're better than like what's subbing in for the Legion of Boom right now. But I wouldn't be scared. It's almost to a like fantasy team benefit to be playing the Rams because they're going to score so many points that they almost get like lackadaisical on defense. That even if you have bad offenses going up against them, that the other team's going to score points.
It's true. But to your original question about am I worried about the Rams players in the playoffs, it is October the 8th. You can't think that way yet.
Well, I'm more concerned about a lot of these Rams players for like next week.
Precisely. That's the more important question. The here and now is the only thing that matters. Like, worry about the future when it comes.
Do you want to talk running backs, or you got any more takeaways? Like how you and Jeff both called the Bills thing. Like I just completely stayed away. I even threw it out to Twitter that like it was the -3.5 a trap for Tennessee. Then like was the -5.5 a trap because it did seem like one of those games where it was going to be super close and the Bills could win, or Tennessee was going to win 40-0 because the Bills just got completely outclassed. But do we get one of these Bills games every year where they just take on a team who's coming in riding hot and they win? Just could you? I watched a lot of that game. Like where I was watching the game, there was. It was Canadian Thanksgiving, so there were very few people in the bar, but like the 3 people who were very passionate about it demanded the Bills be on like way more TVs than ever needed to be, and it was like sad to watch that game.
Well, but we've seen this now 2 times in 5 weeks that the Bills have beaten a team that against an opponent that was riding high. Like the Bills are going to do this because their defense can still play good ball, and Allen has got some intangibles that he can make real, and he can make real. you're going to see 6 or 7 times this year where Buffalo either wins or shows up really close in a game you don't expect them to, because they still have some fundamentals from the team that made the playoffs last year.
Do you think?
So I wouldn't shock to see it. Plus, Tennessee has no star players. They have no one on the offense who can break the game open, which is why Tennessee is a very hobbled team when it comes to like competing against teams like the Chiefs or the Patriots or the Rams or teams that can score points. Tennessee.
I would go the other way with Tennessee. I actually think their worst matchup. I think that they might struggle against really shitty teams for a while, because you're right, they don't have like overwhelming superstars. But when you put them up, like even when we saw against Philly last week, if you put them up against a good team that excels really big in one spot but has deficiencies in other places, and even like the Rams, like if the Rams defense is actually bad, then Tennessee would be able to theoretically score points on them. And everything they do is like their offense is probably is average to slightly below average, but their special teams are good. Their defense is really good. Their defense didn't hurt them at all. The only reason that Josh Allen was able to get a touchdown was who put it on the ground? It was Tywan Taylor put it on the ground on like the 20-yard line, and then Josh Allen's going to scramble once every 5 games and get a 20-yard run and score a touchdown. That was really the difference. So the defense played incredible.
Well, that Mariota couldn't throw the ball up and down the field. Like, he had like 50? He had 129 yards passing in an NFL game. Like, Mariota should be able to do more than that in a game against the Bills. So people think, the Packers had very little trouble going up and down the field against them last week. So.
Yeah, but it's different when it's Aaron Rodgers too, not Mariota.
Well, I think that game sort of like highlighted the fact that he's nowhere near that league. He's still one of the bottom 10 QBs, I think, in the NFL. Yeah. I think this team is very handicapped.
I think they need to. I couldn't figure out why they weren't using Derrick Henry at all. And Lewis did look better. I mean, Henry did look markedly worse, but it didn't seem. Every pass they threw was like 3 yards in front of them. They refused to take any shot down the field. And I get Tre'Davious White shuts down Corey Davis and is only giving him these short routes, and that's all Corey Davis could really get. But there are other guys on this team. Like, take a shot. What's the difference? If the Bills offense couldn't move the ball whatsoever. So if you're going to take like a 45, 50-yard shot downfield, who cares if you throw a pick? It's like a punt.
I get you. They play the Ravens this week. I think they're going to have their hands full.
Those teams are very, very similar, except the passing.
Very similar, except the Ravens have a little bit more skill.
They do, and Flacco's actually throwing the ball.
Yeah. Yesterday was aberrational, but the Browns defense, for what it's worth, has actually played some. I mean, they were the only ones so far this year to really smother the Saints. So, maybe the Browns defense is better than I want to give it credit for.
What I think by DVOA, coming into the week, I think they were ranked 5th or 4th.
Yeah,
in terms
they
of
are better.
defense.
I think that. Yeah, we saw it yesterday. Like, they kept Baltimore under 10 points. So I guess I gotta eat some crow and admit that the defensive side of the ball is pretty good.
What about the Raiders? They look good. Your mighty Raiders.
That game was deceptive. They lose by 16. There was a turnover in the red zone. There's a couple of bad calls.
That was the turnover in the red zone. It was twice so far this season. They've had the ball on the 1-yard line, and they were just like, they had it 4th and 1. Who was that against? That was week 2 against the Dolphins.
Yeah, against Denver.
And yesterday, it was 1st and goal from the 1-yard line. What are we going to do? We're going to get real tricky and not give it to Marshawn.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't understand why teams don't give Marshawn Lynch the ball. I mean, Marshawn Lynch is looking so good in terms of just like, even though his yardage yesterday wasn't fantastic, if you watch the game and watch him in the carries, he has electricity when he gets the ball. I don't understand why they don't give him the ball, why Jalen Richard is sometimes favored when he's not good.
Well, no, let's just dial that back for a minute. Rocket Richard is fine. And he's the guy that you want in the game when you're down by 16 points. He's like Darren Sproles, but faster.
Like, obviously the Chargers were the better team yesterday, but the Raiders shot themselves in the foot. They could easily have won that game. The Chargers were not like dominant in any sense. So.
All right, let's talk about the injuries at the running back position, either sustained yesterday or ones that have been lingering on. Number 1 is Dalvin Cook. He did not play with a hamstring injury. That's going to be kind of rough for the Vikings going forward because Latavius Murray has been atrocious. But I would assume that he gets himself, like he was a game-time decision this week. I would wager he's back for next week, but we'll see. And he just had 10 days off, and still he wasn't able to come back and play. Saquon Barkley hurt himself getting into the end zone on that TD catch, and then we didn't really see him afterwards. He was walking on the sidelines. I don't think it's going to amount to anything, but I think it's something to watch out for.
Particularly on a short week.
Oh, they play Thursday night, don't they?
They play the Eagles on Thursday night at home, yeah. But it's one of those things where you're never benching him unless he's out. So you don't really have a choice in the matter.
No, I understand that, but like you need to be paying attention just to make sure. Like I'm not hearing a lot of buzz about it. I just remember watching it and being like, yeah, that doesn't look good. Like that could be any. Like,
No, it did look weird.
I in my column I had to call it a lower body injury because there's been no report on it, and maybe he's completely fine. I just wanted to make note of it that. Because Jonathan Stewart's been missing time with a foot injury. That means it would be like Wayne Gallman. And this actually kind of worked out for me, too, because I picked up Alfred Blue in a few spots yesterday, just being like, if Miller's out, he's the only running back that they have.
They're better running back.
What's that?
Alfred Blue's better than Lamar Miller.
Neither of them are good. So
Blue looked pretty decent last night.
Blue looked pretty decent. Miller hasn't looked bad for the first few weeks. It just neither of them are good.
I would pick up Gallman if I owned Barkley. I'd be running to pick him up because you got to protect your interests, I guess.
But the whole thing is, like, you're playing Philadelphia on the short week. You're back at home. Barkley probably ends up playing. So if Barkley's not ruled out, even if he's gimped, you're never going to play Gallman, and then you're just wasting fab money.
Yeah, I mean, I get. Well, I mean, everything's contextual. Depends what your setup is. How many wins do you have in your league so far this year? Like, can you afford to gamble or not? I would say I expect Barkley to play, but. And for that reason, you might get Gallman cheap. Like you might be able to just pick him up after waivers have cleared.
Yeah, or put in a $0 bid.
Put a $0 bid in.
I would only recommend doing it if you had Barkley.
I would agree. Or if I was playing the team that has Barkley this week. So
you're actively engaging in subterfuge against your opponent?
Sure. Why not? All's fair in love and fantasy football.
Well, I guess the whole thing would be if you play Wayne Gallman. I mean, wouldn't you just kind of like try to goat the guy into playing Wayne Gallman? Is Wayne Gallman even any good?
Probably not, but at the same time, if he's the only running back there and it's Thursday and you don't have Barkley, you probably don't have a ton of options to plug in. So, yeah, I would spend $1 or $0 on him. I think that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Matt Breida left with an ankle sprain. They're not sure if it's mid or if it's high yet. X-rays came back negative. He's going to have an MRI on Monday, but it does look like he's going to miss a few weeks, meaning that I'll run through the rest of the injuries here very quickly. Kerryon Johnson hurt his ankle. He left the game. They're on bye week now. He should be fine, although it's very clear that it's going to continue to be a split in Detroit, so everyone who got real fired up over Kerryon Johnson probably need to dial that back a bit. Leonard Fournette missed the game. He might miss again next week, and now Corey Grant, he was carted off against Kansas City. He's done for the year.
He's not coming back.
He's done with the Liz Frank injury, so it's just TJ Yeldon until they sign someone right now. So keep rolling out TJ Yeldon as a good fantasy play. He was good yesterday. He'll continue to be the volume guy back there. Marlon Mack missed Thursday night. He'll probably now end up coming back for the Jets this week, but with Mack back and Turbin back, there's outside of Naheem Hines, who's probably not even a good play with Mack back. You don't want to play any of these guys. Darren Sproles missed. Corey Clement played but didn't play a snap, so he's still technically hurt. So him and Sproles could be back at some point. Lamar Miller was active, but again played no snaps in Week 5 in the Sunday Nighter.
Tells you all you need to know about Lamar Miller.
Sure, I mean he was hurt, and they didn't want to have Tyler Ervin as their backup. Donta Foreman's expected to come back in Week 7. So when we get to the waiver wire rankings, I have Alfred Morris at number 1. Solely because there's not going to be Matt Breida, and Donta Foreman at number 2. And this is a risky one. Like, I've picked up Donta Foreman in spots where I need running backs, but the whole point behind it is, like, I think that there is a path for him to be the starter. Now, he's returning from an Achilles injury, and Achilles injuries tend to go one of two ways. Either you're not affected whatsoever. Well, you see, like, Terrell Suggs has, like, torn it twice. Michael Crabtree tore it at one point. Like, some guys come back and it's never an issue. Other guys are forced to retire because they can't really walk ever again. Yeah. The fact that he's coming back would lead me to think that it's an Achilles issue. He's only owned in like 3% of leagues. People aren't actively going out of their way to get him because, frankly, no one knows how good he's going to be. He could be an absolute disaster. And I'm not saying pick him up and be like, oh, you got yourself a running back 1. No problems. But in a year devoid of like workhorse running backs, this guy is free right now. Why wouldn't you take a shot?
I agree with you. I mean, there is a glut of running backs there, which would be the reason you'd be worried about it. But considering we're going into Week 6 and no star back has really been out since the preseason, it's a perfectly fine lottery ticket. I don't have a problem with it.
And it's free, right?
Yeah, it's free. And in fact, I would probably have him over Alfred Morris because I don't think Alfred Morris is any good.
Yeah, but if Breida's going to be out, you're going to look at probably like Jersrick and Alfred Morris are going to play at the same time. I actually have Juszczyk at number 9 here because he's going to.
Yeah, tell me that Juszczyk's not better than Morris. Like you can't. I definitively you can't.
I mean,
think they're like,
I can say that because Alfred Morris is going to end up getting 20 carries per game. He'll still get. He even ended up with 3 receptions yesterday, and he's going to get all the goal line work. Like that's the situation that you would want to have. Whether you think he's more talented than Juszczyk or not, he's going to get 5 times the amount of touches.
Until he fumbles one more time, and then
they replace him with Mozart from the bench?
Why don't they? Might as well. Like, I get why you have Morris at 1, but I think he's awful, and I think he's a fumble away from like not being fantasy relevant anymore.
But they legit have no one to replace him with now.
They can sign anybody off the street, and they are going to be as good, if not better, than Alfred Morris. I'm very down on him.
You're putting yourself into a situation right now where Alfred Morris is on the wire, and I wouldn't use a number 1 on him. And now, if you played it
I had Breida, I wouldn't consider him.
If you need a running back to play for the next 2 weeks, he is a guy who's going to start the next 2 weeks. He's going to be a fringe top 20 running back with TD upside. I mean, there's not a distinct difference between the numbers he's going to put up and what like Marshawn Lynch puts up.
I disagree.
This is the only running back available on the waiver wire right now that is
that
is volume based. And what do you want to do? You want to get guys that are going to get volume. That's the only thing that you can really bank on towards fantasy success. You can take the most skilled guys you want. If they don't touch the ball, they ain't scoring points. Morris, not great. Gonna touch the ball a ton.
See, that's where I disagree. I don't know that his volume is A, dependable, and B, going to happen.
Who is taking his volume?
He is so bad that he's going to lose that volume. Juszczyk, why in the name of God can't Juszczyk take 30 to 50% of his...
Because he is there to pass block and catch passes out of the backfield. That's all he's doing.
Okay, well, then you and I have a genuine disagreement here because I don't think Morris is going to have that volume, and I think when the rubber meets the road, the 49ers are not going to lean on.
All right, well, this sounds like a bet we need to make then.
Okay.
We're talking about a volume bet over the games that Breida misses, and Breida could be out anywhere from like a week if everything's fine to like 6 weeks because he has a high ankle, or if he has a high ankle sprain, he's done for a while. And
Morris has already hurt himself.
What's Morris have? Like Morris was dealing with a knee injury, but he's played through the knee injury. I think it's one of those like old man injuries. Like Marshawn Lynch appears on the injury report every single week with a shoulder injury, and then by Friday it's like, oh yeah, he's not really hurt. We just gave him some time off. Like Julio is on the injury report every single week, then all of a sudden he's just fine.
Well, fine is I don't know if I would use the word fine. He's struggling.
What did he end up with yesterday? 5 for what?
I'll effort that. Hold on. Julio.
Because he had nothing in the first half. Because they just looked.
No, absolutely nothing. Yeah, it was just discomforting. 5 for 62.
And what did Calvin Ridley have?
I don't want Ridley Scott. I want good.
Are you just Googling the name? Just look at the ball. I'll look it up. All right, so let's see here.
4 for 36.
So 4 for 38 for Calvin Ridley, 5 for 62 on 9 targets for Julio. Like, that's by far Julio's worst game of the season so far, and he had 5 catches for 62 yards.
No, I understand that, but if you were like me and thought he might be like the number 1 fantasy receiver.
Well, maybe that's why he's struggling, because you thought he was going to be the number 1 wide receiver in football. Maybe if you just said, well, I mean, you picked Le'Veon Bell. Look what happened to him. You think Julio's the best. He can't catch touchdowns. So
I took Rodgers.
What's that?
And I took Rodgers, who's gimping.
Oh, yeah, you did take Rodgers. I forgot about that. Anyway,
he's actually been fine.
So back to Alfred Morris just for 1 second here. So if Breida is out, in games that Breida is out, so let's just say the next 2 weeks. We'll just make this for the next 2 weeks. I'll say he averages over 17 touches a game.
Yeah, I would take the under on that.
All right, do you want to call it 16.5?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take the over on those touches. And if you can get any player on your team who ends up with more than 17 touches in a game, that guy starts in fantasy. That's why he's the number 1 guy.
No, I understand. I understand all of what you're saying. And if you could guarantee me 19 carries a game, I'd agree with you. I just don't think they'll be there.
Okay. So Morris, then Foreman for me. Then it would be Ronald Jones. Like I said, it's very weak. It's more of a speculative pickup on the waiver wire this week. Like if you need someone to play, go get Morris. I'm with Tim that I don't think the talent is there to burn a number 1 on him unless you're just out of this world desperate. So Foreman, then Ronald Jones. They're coming back off bye week. We saw Jones actually be active, get some run in that blowout against Chicago the week before. But like Peyton Barber was playing all these snaps, but he hasn't done anything. Jaquiz Rodgers hasn't done anything. Ronald Jones looked horrible. But again, it's just one of these situations where you pick him up and maybe he develops into something. Maybe he ends up being the starter. Like how, and it's almost the same case with Foreman. It's like how often do you get to pick up a starter off the waiver wire?
Very infrequently, yeah.
So it's not great. And you probably shouldn't pick up Foreman and Jones, and I would prefer Foreman. I just think that he's probably better, and he could have access to an offense which, I mean, after week 1, people were so out on Deshaun Watson, and now he's played 4 consecutive games, over 300 yards passing in each, over 35 rushing yards in each. They should probably stop running him so much near the goal line and trying to get him killed.
I'm very concerned about the way he played last night. He won't last 3 more weeks if he keeps playing like that.
But they haven't been doing this for that was the first time all season that it was just like, hey, we don't have goal line plays or a good running back, so we'll just try to sweep out Deshaun Watson and let him get rocked every time.
Bro, it was terrifying. It's like this is why Bill O'Brien should have been fired this morning. That's why he should have been fired last week. That's why I don't know why he continues to have a job. I don't get it.
Well, the thing,
he's mismanaging his assets more than any coach. He's somehow worse than both Hugh Jackson, who didn't know the game was over yesterday after the field goal. He's somehow worse than Mike McCarthy, who is the best quarterback of the era and does nothing with him. Like, somehow Bill O'Brien is worse than all of these coaches. I don't understand how he remains employed.
Maybe Houston's cheap. They don't want to fire their coach just to hire someone else.
Because they started the game last night with Al Michaels saying, well, Bill O'Brien just signed an extension, so he'll be here for a while. It's like, no, he shouldn't be here tomorrow. What are you talking about?
Well, there's the whole thing. You sign an extension. So some teams are cheap, and they don't want to fire people.
I get that, but at the same time, he is destroying your team. He's destroying. I mean, the AFC South, like the AFC East, I mean, the best teams are right now 3-2 and 2-3. Like, the Texans could make money moves here if they wanted to, but instead they choose to just languish because they're mismanaging their assets.
Yeah, I don't quite get it. In that game, did Fuller look more hurt than maybe they were leading on?
Yes, I was surprised with the lack of.
I assumed he would just miss the week because usually when he has a hamstring problem, he just misses the week. But why is he playing if that's the case?
Decoy, because they know that in big spots deep, that's where they like to go. And you try to shift some, you try to make sure that everybody's not keying it on Nuke. So that way you put somebody out. Or you have to respect Fuller on the other side.
Yeah,
I assume that was.
I understand the logic behind having him out there, but it became pretty clear that he wasn't running 100%.
Now, ask yourself who's coaching that team, and then ask yourself whether the logic matters.
So the rest of the running back rankings, I have Buck Allen at number 4. He's just, it's almost like Eckler in a weird way. Eckler's better, but he's just doing stuff every week. He's not a good play ever, but he's also not a zero play if you have no one else. So number 4,
Yep.
Mike Davis is in the back end of the split with Chris Carson, who looked really good yesterday. They both looked really good, actually, against the Rams, but he's still on the backside of that. He would be the one to own in Seattle if that was the case, not Rashad Penny. LeGarrette Blount, that's touchdown or bust. Jalen Richard, who you said sucks, but he gets
I don't like him.
Well, he gets catches every single game. He's worth it in PPR.
I get it.
Nyheim Hines is the one. I have him at 6. I like Nyheim Hines, but now with Marlon Mack coming back. So Mack, Turbin, Wilkins, Hines. It is going to be a team that passes a lot, which does benefit Hines because he's the pass-catching back. But these days of seeing him play, like in games where Marlon Mack hasn't played outside of week 1, it's been like 71% snap share. It's been 75% snap share. And that just being on the field is leading to a lot of catches for him. Now that everyone's back and healthy, I just don't know if he's going to see that same amount of snaps. And if you take that away and you cut his production in half or potentially more because he's only playing like 37% of the snaps, he's not going to be viable whatsoever.
I agree with everything you just said.
All right. Is there anyone on this list you want to talk about? Because I like Wendell Smallwood, and I think that Juszczyk is someone you can pick up in PPR just to play. I prefer Richard, but Juszczyk is fine as someone who's a
I don't mind Richard. Juszczyk. I kind of like him a little bit.
They're non-zero players, but Juszczyk basically needs to do everything himself in order to score a touchdown. Then you have
I think he's the best running back the Niners have, because I've sort of asserted
that's great. He's not touching the ball, as you've just lost the Alfred Morris bet to me.
We'll see. I mean, I expect that game to be a rout on Monday night, and so I think there's a ton of value in Juszczyk.
But you know what? You're right about that. There could be a ton of value there, but their only way to keep this game close
Morris is going to be useless. They'll be down 14-0 or 21-0 early, and then Morris provides zero value to them, and he doesn't play anymore.
He'll end up at least if he can move the ball down the field, he'll end up coming in during red line or in goal line situations. And their only path to keeping that game close early is just run the ball over and over, even if it is for 3 yards.
That's also the only way Morris is usable in that game is if they keep it close. Because if it's a rout, then he definitely isn't usable. So I guess if you like Morris this week, then you also kind of have to like the 49ers to keep it close.
If we think about game script in that context, like Juszczyk will always be on the field anyway, and they'll just have another back there. It could be Rashim Motzert or whatever the hell his name is. It could be him. I just don't think it's going to be. Like, even when you looked at the split from yesterday from the 49ers backfield, it was just still a ton of Alfred Morris, and like they were down by a ton of that game too.
Well, do you belong to that section of I saw this on Twitter yesterday, the fantasy community who believe the defensive matchups don't matter?
I mean,
that was a debate that was boiling.
it wasn't really a debate. It was one guy being like very pious about, no, it doesn't matter. I have stats. Like, what are the stats? And they're like, oh. I think the whole point was that I do think that like cornerback matchups matter. I think that playing against a certain defense matters. I think that can be overrated. I think that we can put too much stock into it from time to time, that unless you're dealing like with outlier defenses that are just all-timers, then maybe it doesn't really matter as much as maybe it's more of a talking point for a lot of people because people do shows, people create content, that it's really easy to say, oh, well, they're 9th in DVOA, they're a tough matchup. But realistically, the difference between 9th and 23rd isn't all that big of a deal. I think that's the point that he was trying to make. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm misspeaking on his part. Maybe just to him it doesn't matter. Maybe that's what his data points show. But maybe his math is wrong. I don't know. His math could be right for him, but maybe he's not putting everything we need to see into it. But I believe that playing against a good defense, I'd rather have a guy playing against a shitty defense. Put it that way. That would be my take on it. But I'm also like wrong all the time. So maybe I'm just wrong on it.
Yeah, like I would rather my team go up against the Patriots D than the Bears D, for example.
I would tend to agree. I think, and we've seen this over the course of years, and maybe it depends on the offense that you're running, but like you don't necessarily have to have a good defense. I think that defensive line and pressure makes more of a difference than actually having a good defense. And some games you get blocked, and then your defense looks horrible. Other games you can generate pressure, and your defense looks amazing. Like, look at the Bills. Every time the Bills have been able to generate pressure this year, their defense has looked all right. Every time they haven't, it's looked horrible.
Yeah.
So where the season is so short, there's so many different moving pieces. To scheme against one team on a week-to-week basis, like maybe you just had maybe your defense is good and you scheme poorly. Like that could be a thing. Like yesterday,
totally.
Did Jacksonville's defense really shut down Kansas City yesterday, or did they basically just it was raining, it was slow, and Blake Bortles was just so bad that Kansas City's offense didn't really need to do much. They could just kind of get out of dodge. They didn't have to really go balls out. When they wanted to move the ball, they seemed to move the ball no problem. That's a good defense.
I would say that Jacksonville chose to pick its poison and decide that Mahomes on his own wasn't going to kill them with deep touchdowns, and that is a perfectly reasonable way to approach the game. And that the Chiefs are so multifaceted that they just chose. That they were able to beat Jacksonville in another way. So, like the Jags forced KC to play a way that they don't usually play. I mean, Mahomes had 0 touchdown passes, for example. Like that, we hadn't seen that yet.
He did. So he did run one in.
He ran one in, but they said we're going to take the deep, long plays out of Kansas City's repertoire. We're going to make them beat us in more of a hand-to-hand combat type of game, and they did. But so that's the way I would interpret that. That Jacksonville chose that. That's the way they wanted to play that game. Just Bortles couldn't keep up his end of the bargain.
See, I think that like early on in that game, Mahomes looked really good and was kind of slinging the ball all around. And then just Bortles was so bad, they were just like, you know what? We don't really need to do anything here. We just need to not turn the ball over and we'll be fine.
Yeah, there's that too. I mean, considering who they were playing next week, you don't want to get too much stuff on film that you don't need to use because you're going to have to pull a couple of tricks out of your bag next week. Do
you know the 2 biggest favorites in Week 5 are or Week 6 are?
I would have to imagine Green Bay on Monday night.
Green Bay is the second. They're 9.5 at home. The Vikings are.
I would say the Vikings the Vikings would have to be a big favorite too.
I mean, early thoughts on some of the stuff. I kind of like Arizona plus 10.5.
Yeah, as do I.
Like
no other reason the Vikings are not good.
The Vikings are fine. I mean, they just went into Philly and beat Philly.
Yeah, maybe Philly's worse than I thought they were. To me, that told me more about Philadelphia than it did about Minnesota.
Philly's going to be fine. I just think it's going to take them a few weeks to kind of figure their shit out.
It's weird. This is a year of parity. Outside of the Rams and Chiefs and maybe the Bengals, every division is up for grabs. Like the NFC East, the Redskins, the Giants, the Cowboys lost, but the Redskins and Eagles are going to fight for it. I mean, the AFC South is wholly wide open. The AFC East is wide open. The NFC South is wide open. Like the outside of the NFC West and the AFC West, probably There's no open divisions.
Let's move.
Those are they're all open.
All right, I would tend to agree with you. I'll move to receiver, and we'll talk about some of the injuries at the position. Brendan Cooks and Cooper Kupp both sustained concussions in this match. So Josh Reynolds would be the one, at least immediately, to play like 100% of the snaps on this team. It's so hard to tell with concussions whether guys are going to play or whether they're not going to play. Quincy Enunwa, I saw this like when I was watching the game. They kind of pointed out, it's like, oh yeah, he has a hand injury. They're like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the cause. Like, you watched all of that game. Did Chris Harris shut him down, or is he just not a part of the game plan because they were able to so effectively run the ball? It just seems so weird that he ended up with zeros. Yeah,
well, what slowed them down is that the Jets scored from depth multiple times, and that's not usual for them. So that just took away when the Jets are scoring 70-plus yard touchdowns, the little 6-yard, 7-yard receptions that a new one uses to build a drive, just they disappear. He had a drop or two. He didn't play great, but the Jets were just able to take full advantage of Denver making terrible defensive miscues.
So I would still be in on a noon one. Like last week on the show, I said he'd be a top 25 PPR receiver for the rest of the year. I still think he is.
I agree with you. I also think, though, I would be surprised if Cooks played this week.
Well, he got like the Kupp one was one thing. The Cooks one looked brutal.
That's it. And then someone with like that type of medical condition to then have to play at Mile High, I don't know that that's the best spot for him. So why not give him the rest? I think likelier than not, Cooks doesn't play. Kupp, I don't know. I didn't see Kupp's injury, so I can't speak to how hard he got hit or what the nature of his concussion is. But if you were asking me which of those two play, I would say Kupp before I would say Cooks. Cooks got hit harder than he did in the Super Bowl, and he missed the whole Super Bowl. Like, this is not his first concussion.
No, and it's easier to get concussions once you've had one. But
that's two in a short span.
The brutalness of any sort of hit is not really indicative of how severe a concussion is, though.
That's of course true.
So, I mean, Cooper Kupp could have been lightly touched on the head. All of a sudden, he has a more severe concussion that won't go away versus someone who got absolutely, like, knocked out. And maybe that was better than it's really tough. Like, that's always the hardest part with a concussion is that you can't measure how severe it is.
No, that's right. I mean, I just said I didn't see the hit at all, so I just have no opinion on the nature of his injury.
Rashard Higgins hurt his knee, exited the game. He did catch a touchdown, so that was nice for him. Geronimo Allison, with his concussion and hamstring injury, missed Week 5. It seemed like he was close, though, so I'd expect him to play on Monday night, but where that's a Monday night game, you kind of have to... I mean, I would play him against San Francisco for sure if he played, but you're going to have to hear some positive news during the week. Randall Cobb looks like he's going to miss Monday night with his hamstring problem.
I would imagine.
But again, keep it up on him. Reports out of Miami say that Devontae Parker in his quad injury will play in Week 6. You probably don't want to play him, but he's going to play. T.Y. Hilton, I would imagine, is going to be back with his hamstring injury. He's had the 10 days off, so monitor his status. I have him like when we do the rankings tomorrow, he'll be in. Anthony Miller, they had the bye week. He was dealing with that shoulder injury. No certainty he'll be back yet. Travis Benjamin for the Chargers, probably going to be out again with a foot injury in Week 6. And Ted Ginn's missing the Monday night game with a knee injury. They're going on bye the week after, so I'd expect him to be back from the bye week. He's just an old man.
Why don't you have him in your ranks?
I can't wait. The amount of people that ask me why I didn't
Where's
rank...
Michael Thomas?
Yeah. I get so few things right when it comes to ranking. But when people ask me, like, during Week 5, it's like, where's Deshaun Jackson? These rankings are stupid. It's just like, if there's one thing I can get right, it's not ranking guys on bye weeks. I can definitely do that. So waiver wire pickups for this week at wide receiver. I got Mike Williams at number 1. And again, like, these are all guys that probably should be owned or aren't owned. But, like, Mike Williams, 2 bad weeks, it's going to happen. I still think that he's fine. I still think he should be owned. Geronimo Allison, if he's healthy, you're probably playing him on Monday night, so pick him up. Jamison Crowder, you probably missed the boat. A lot of people did pick him up to play on Monday night if he has a good game. He's going to cost you, but, like, he's not great. Don't overreact to a big game against the Saints, who really struggle against slot guys, as some sort of future predictor of him being great going forward. Then Antonio Callaway, especially with the Higgins injury. Josh Reynolds is probably the one who's completely unavailable on people's teams, sort of like Marquez Valdez-Scantling from last week, that you can pick up and probably play this week. Like, if Kupp and Cooks both miss time, or even if just one of them misses time, I would be led to believe that Josh Reynolds will probably be fine. I don't think it matters who they have at receiver. The guys are just going to be, these guys are wide open every time they catch the ball.
Yeah, of those guys on that list, though, I mean, I'm surprised you have Christian Kirk that low. Maybe it's just because he's owned in most leagues.
No, why would, if he's on the list, I mean, if he's hold on. Yeah, that's great. He might be a star. What, he had 3? He had caught a long touchdown and had like 5 targets in an offense that's bad.
I think that he and Rosen together are going to develop a heck of a rapport, and I want to be ahead of that boat. I don't want to be behind it. So, of those guys there, other than Crowder, obviously, but like you said, you probably can't get him. I'm in love with Christian Kirk, and I don't know what the condition is on Kute, like his injury. I don't know if he had a concussion, but I don't know what the nature of his injury is. So
he passed protocol. He came back into the game.
He's like Tyreek Hill, but slightly worse.
Yeah, but if I don't know, like this is 2 weeks now where to get Cutie. I think he's fine. I
can't pronounce his name to save my life.
Jake has schooled me on this. After watching it last night, it's QT, like Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
So he's going to be fine, and they're going to use gadget plays for him. They're going to throw to like there's enough volume in that offense because they pass so much that he can end up with like 5 to 10 on any given week. But 2 weeks ago when he had like the touchdown and the 16 targets, it was after Will Fuller left the game. And clearly Will Fuller was not 100% last night. So I don't know how much of his volume was based on Fuller not being up to snuff and not being 100%. That if Fuller is 100%, what's the role that Cutie has in this offense moving forward? I think it's good, but not great.
Yeah, I still think he's a guy that they're going to give that little drop pass or those little slot throws to 4 to 5 times. I think he has a pretty reasonable floor. You're right to say perhaps put his ceiling when Fuller is up and running. But listen, as we were describing, the Texans' backfield is really bereft of skill outside of Blue occasionally. So, I think Kuti could be more useful than perhaps you're letting on.
But if you're picking him up, are you ever playing him unless Fuller's hurt?
Yeah, I think so.
When are you playing him over Jamison Crowder? When are you playing him over Mike Williams? Like one guy is the red zone target for a team that scores a bunch of points. The other guy is at best the third option. And frankly, Deshaun Watson runs the ball so much that in terms of fantasy points, he might be the 4th option.
Okay, I mean, I think you make a good case. This week is tough for him against the Bills in particular, I think.
This week is tough for DeAndre Hopkins against the Bills. It might actually work out for Fuller and QT this week that they get to pick on like the crappy part of the Bills defense, not the good part.
I love the Bills this week.
You love the Bills this week?
I certainly do.
Can the Bills reasonably play 2 good games in a row?
I think that Bill O'Brien can't get lucky 2 weeks in a row that his bad decisions didn't cost him a game. So,
well, I mean, you have to think that they're gigantic favorites too. I believe they're 8.5-point favorites at home against the Bills this week. That if this game isn't close, then it really doesn't matter what Bill O'Brien does. He can make all the bad decision he likes.
I suppose that's true, but I don't think it will be like that. I think projections are off.
No, we don't need to say projections anymore. We can say spread.
I know, but it's a throwback statement.
Yeah, but you have to understand that not everyone watches all the same shows, Tim.
Well, I just assume people are watching what I watch and doing what I do.
Exactly. See, and this has been your common folly throughout the years. Jags receivers. If you had to own one, would it be Keelan Cole?
Yes, it would. And I'm not delighted about it.
Yeah, I don't know if you really want to own any of these guys. I mean, you do want to own them if you need to plug them in a decent matchup, but it's going to be almost impossible to project which one of these guys does anything on a given week.
You're precisely right.
Like I think Moncrief had 15 targets yesterday.
Yeah, and a lot of them are not quality targets.
No, they're not. Maybe they'll throw them directly into the Kansas City Chiefs defenders' heads again and pop the ball up into the air.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So what is it with Bortles?
He's not good.
But some weeks he looks great.
Yeah, but you can't trust him. Like, he played against the Patriots like a Pro Bowl quarterback. And then yesterday, against a defense somehow worse than the Patriots, he played terribly. So you can't trust him. He's unpredictable. There is no relying upon it. He will have great games and he'll have bad games, and you'll never see one or the other coming.
I guess
there's no such thing as Blake Bortles chalk, put it that way.
Yeah.
Anytime you think he's chalk, you should run away from him because he should never be chalk in any matchup ever.
That is exactly what I was going to point out. He was the second highest owned quarterback in the DraftKings Millionaire Maker yesterday because he was a good price, good matchup. What could go wrong? Turns out he's Blake Bortles. That anytime people are piling on to Blake Bortles as the play of the week, you might want to go in a different direction.
It doesn't.
If Ulrich and I talked about this on Friday's show, it's like everyone is playing so much Blake Bortles that the move might be just to play Chiefs D against him. If he has a bad game, you almost like inverse the standings where everyone who has Bortles has a shitty week, and then you get to benefit from it. That's like a twofer.
I agree completely. I mean, it worked out in retrospect, but I agree. Anytime that Blake Bortles is just don't own him because you're never going to know. There are going to be weeks you hit home runs with him, but you can never guess. So don't bother trying. Take that stress out of your life.
The rest of the guys down here, like Tywan Taylor, had the fumble, just Tennessee's offense looked bad. I still think he's the number 2 option here. Not great, but someone to own. If you're talking about like a 10-team league, this guy's unownable. If it's like a 12-team league, 14-team league, now you're a bit in business. Taylor Gabriel, I think a lot of people are going to overreact to that big game, but
Sledgehammer.
But he doesn't get to play Tampa every week, and Mitch Trubisky ain't throwing for 6 touchdowns every week. He's going to go back looking like more of the Mitch Trubisky we're used to. So he's a big play or nothing type of guy. And once Anthony Miller's back, that's just less of a market share he has. He's fine for standard leagues, I think, and if you need to roll the dice on a big play, but he's not someone I'm going to start every week.
No, I agree completely.
The only other one, if you want a deeper pickup, DJ Moore, obviously a first-round talent. I like the way that he was used towards the end of that Carolina game. When they needed to get some first downs, that's who they started leaning on, which was nice to see. And it could be because Jenkins was taking Funchess out of the game. They were scheming around McCaffrey. They're like, hey, Carolina likes to do? Pass to Christian McCaffrey. We should think about stopping it. The DJ Moore had the best matchup on the field, and they were able to exploit that a little bit. I don't know, because at the beginning of the game, it was all Curtis Samuel that Cam was looking for downfield. Then at the end, when it mattered the most, then all of a sudden it was DJ Moore. I think he's a nice stash pickup if you need receiver help, but would you ever be able to play him? Could you feasibly play him this week, do you think? I don't think you could.
I'll tell you who's Carolina playing. At Washington?
Does it matter who they're playing?
No, not really, I suppose.
Do you know why? Because defenses don't matter.
This is what I've been told.
Tight ends, very quickly, before we get into the question period. You ready for the question period or what?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, you are? It sounds like you're really far away from your computer now. Are you outside smoking?
I am not.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. Cameron Brate I have at number 1. There wasn't a ton of injuries. They're just the guys who've been injured. Ingram could be back this week. Jack Doyle could be back this week. O.J. Howard's probably out this week for at least another week with that knee injury. Greg Olsen could be back this week. He practiced on a limited basis. So in the rankings, I have Cameron Brate at number 1 as streaming only. That Winston likes to throw to him anyway. They're playing Atlanta, who absolutely reeks on defense, and there's no O.J. Howard. It has the makings of a good stream, and he's out there. Coming off a bye, too. No one went and got him last week. Then I have Olsen and O.J. Howard as stash plays. If it was Fitzmagic playing, I would have Howard over Olsen because I don't know how good his foot's going to be. Since he suffered that injury last year with the foot, even when he came back, even earlier this year, then he hurts his foot again. He's an old man. He was talking about retiring anyway. I don't know how good he's going to be. He's almost sort of like a name value guy to put in the rankings that you would pick up because his name is Greg Olsen and there are no good tight ends, so why not?
I agree with you. The tight end is a wasteland here.
And then it's Austin Hooper, C.J. Uzomah. Jeff Swaim looks all right. They throw to him at least.
Well, they kept saying on the broadcast site that Swaim is their number 1 tight end. He's their guy. And considering that Dallas's receivers are all skill challenged, Swaim might just be in the volume business, right? He might just be the guy that Dak has to throw to when Ezekiel is double covered. So I don't mind him. Of all these guys, I think I like Swaim the best.
You like Swaim the best? I
think so.
The problem is what's the upside when it comes to Swaim? What are you realistic? What are you real? Would you not play Cameron Brate this week over Jeff Swaim? Geoff Swaim?
I guess I would play Brate, but listen, at tight end, I'm not trying to hit home runs. I'm just trying not to get zeros. But at the time, you need to have some sort of baked-in upside for some of this, because even if you're not trying to play zeros, what's 3 points doing for you? Well, I think in PPR, he can be a 7 to 8 point player.
He was 3 for 55 yesterday on 3 targets. So he got 100% of the passes thrown to him. He ends up scoring 8.5 fantasy points. If you get your 8.5 fantasy points at a Swaim every single week, that would be fine. And maybe he can build himself towards that. I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I don't love any of these guys, but I just think Swaim has the potential in an offense that needs to be more diversified, that he could be, if he's won the job, so-called, then maybe he's worth a speculative pickup.
So I was looking at the numbers. You remember our regular season bet that I bet the third-string tight end on Jacksonville would outscore your boy, Canadian golfer Ian Leggett on the Jets?
Yes.
So it's within a point now, and Leggett caught a touchdown at one point.
Thank goodness. I needed that. And he caught a pass yesterday because I saw it. He's fired up.
Do you still think that he's going to be a sneaky tight end to own in 2018?
I don't, because Tomlinson has played better than I thought he would, which has been surprising to me.
All these guys are terrible.
They're not. None of them are. I mean, the Jets have explosive talent on the offensive side, but not at the tight end position.
So, are you going to start Robbie Anderson next week? Because you benched him this week. Great game. Whenever you play him, he gets 0 points. So, what happens now?
I think Indianapolis is a good matchup for him. It's a good. I mean, this is a game that the Jets should be firing the hole. They should be throwing the ball a ton against the Colts, because the Colts will be throwing it a ton against the Jets. So, it's definitely going to be the highest scoring game of the week.
Really?
It is. I mean, I would be surprised if it wasn't. Put it that way. I think that both defenses have shown their capacity to be taken advantage of on deep passes. I like the Jets to throw it a lot, and I think the Colts with luck will come right back down the field with it. I really hope, for the Jets' sake, that Hilton doesn't play, because that's the one person who scares me the most. If Hilton doesn't go, then I will retract the statement about being the highest scoring, because then I don't think the Colts can score enough to get the job done. But I think against a very bad back end of the Colts, and we saw the Patriots just absolutely take advantage of it, I don't see why Anderson and particularly him, but even prior, if they started to get him going towards the end of the game, why those guys just can't take advantage on deep routes.
Well, I think that you might want to put a wager in on the over of this matchup, as it comes in at 45.5 right now, one of the lowest totals of the week.
I think that's silly.
Is it because the Jets had one good offensive game and now they're great?
Well, but the Colts just let up 38 points.
Yeah, to the Patriots, Tim.
And they gave up a bunch against the Texans the week before.
So are you equating the Jets' offense to be on the same level as the Patriots and the Texans?
I think it's better than the Texans' offense.
The Texans' offense is better than the Jets' offense.
I don't think so.
I think the Texans might have better players, except for outside of running back. That every receiver position, everyone on the Texans is way better. So that helps. The quarterback's better on the Texans.
Way better. I mean, yes,
okay. So okay. Let's match these up for a second. DeAndre Hopkins or Quincy Enunwa?
Robbie Anderson would be.
Okay, so DeAndre Hopkins.
Obviously Hopkins.
Okay, and how much better is DeAndre Hopkins?
By a decent factor.
Okay, Will Fuller or Terrell Pryor?
No. Will Fuller's a star.
Okay, so we're 2 for 2. So you have Kiki Cutie or Quincy Enunwa. I'll give that one to Enunwa.
I'd have to take Quincy there.
All right, so we're going to the third receiver on a team, the slot receiver on a team, before it's even within the realm of possibility that they have
a better quarterback.
You don't have the better. Watson is better than shitty Sam Powell. Are you kidding me?
Super Bowl Sam is good. He's going to play good this week. I have a feeling.
Oh, so that you're going on your gut feeling he's going to play. When was the last time he's played well in back-to-back weeks?
Whatever.
And I do enjoy that you're still hyping him up as a guy who completed 10 passes is great. Couldn't even complete 50% of his passes. He's amazing. He's amazing, though. This is the same reason people hated Josh Allen coming out of college, because he had the Sam Darnold stat line from yesterday.
You don't need to complete a bunch of passes when the ones you complete go for 70 in a major, sir.
Do you think so? This is something you're banking on now? His propensity to throw 70-yard touchdowns? I always thought the Jets were a big play offense. Yes, with the fastest receivers in football, they are built to be a big play offense. Give your head a shake, pal.
You know, against mediocre teams like the Colts, we should be able to take advantage.
We just did 10 minutes. Quarterbacks. Let's talk about quarterbacks very briefly. Streaming for the week. Not a ton. Dalton's a good play at Pittsburgh against Pittsburgh. I think Jameis is a good play at Atlanta, and I think Baker's a good play at home against the Chargers. Baker looked good yesterday.
Jameis is my favorite of all of these.
I can see that. Then I have Carr and Alex Smith. I think they're behind the top 3 though.
Yeah, Smith, you could sort of make the case. I mean, listen, the Giants scored 31 points for the first time in years against that Panthers defense. They've got problems. And Smith, we'll see how he does tonight, but if he can show that he can sort of run that offense effectively against the Saints and bounce back, I don't see why he can't do the similar things against the Panthers. So I like Smith maybe a little more than you do.
We had a lot of streaming defense last week. Like, there was a lot of really good ones. Most of them actually paid off. Even Lions against the Packers. Playing any team with a good pass rush against the Packers is going to be a play. Like, it doesn't really matter that Aaron Rodgers is going to auto-post 20 points. Like, he's going to fumble. He's going to turn it over. And the Lions were one step away from scoring a major on defense, but they're the Lions, so of course they just...
and the sack fumble, I was watching that live, and I was screaming, because I own Rodgers in fantasy. I was screaming at him. It's like, look behind you. He's coming.
He didn't see it. Did not look behind him. No. Maybe he. Do you think that's why QBs wear visors? That they can see the reflection in the visor? Be like, oh, here's what's coming from behind me.
Yeah, don't give the NFL any ideas.
Sneaky, sneaky. So Green Bay's number one in my defense stream rankings. They were dropped en masse because they played Detroit last week. And the fact they're a shitty defense, that doesn't help. But they're playing guilty beatards, so they'll be fine. Philly, Thursday night at the Giants. That's, again, a good pass rush going up against a bad offensive line. Dallas and Jacksonville. I don't love Dallas's D. They do generate good pressure. Jacksonville actually has a pretty good offensive line. It did get banged up over the weekend, though. But stream against Bortles, either it really works out or it doesn't. I think it happens enough that you can take a chance on it. The other two are Indy at the Jets. Indy has a very good pass rush, top 5 in football right now. So if you can get pressure on Darnold, you can make mistakes.
Absolutely.
And Miami against Chicago. This is just, not that Miami's defense is any good. They should be healthier next week, but everyone's just so big on Trubisky right now because the last time we saw him, he was amazing. Let's get him back on the road. I don't think he's going to be the best.
Why can't I stream Chicago? Why didn't you mention them?
Shut up.
It is possible, however, that because they were on bye, somebody did drop the Bears.
Yeah, but
That
I agree with you. I think I went and looked at it because I'd go and look at it. Like, no defense is like 100% owned, so I think they're like 91% owned. So it is possible. It's plausible that the Bears would be available in your league, but I mean, I'm not doing rankings for everyone specifically. Well, in my league, none of these guys are on. Well, in my league, all of these guys are like. Someone told me they could pick up Will Fuller. They're like, who do I pick up and start this week? I have some injury problems. Do I pick up Corey Davis, Marvin Jones, or Will Fuller? It's like, what the hell kind of league is this?
Well, there are a lot of 16 leads out there.
Are there a lot of 16 leagues?
I can't imagine that there are, no.
All right, let's get to Q&A. We're right at the 11
right.
a.m. period. We'll do as many questions as we can get to. So start loading them in now. I'm not going backwards, so we'll see. I was a shirt with Tim's face on it that says, "In Cust we trust." That's not a question.
I think he means I want a shirt.
Oh, well, he didn't say that. When you say things, you should try to mean what you say.
And you should say Top Cat. That's what people call me.
No one calls you that. This is one of these bizarre self-appointed nicknames again. Would you burn a number one waiver priority on anyone to pick up this week? Well, that is the giveaway for the show. So after the show is over, when I can actually see the comments, give the episode a like. Smash that like button. So important that you smash the like button. Leave your DK handle in the comment section, not the live chat section. After the live is over, in the comment section, because I won't be able to see it in the live chat section. And let me know if you would burn a number one waiver priority on anyone this week. You could answer no. And if you do answer yes, tell me who it is. Frankly, very curious. I would not. Unless I just sucked so much at running back that I picked up Alfred Morris. But I don't think it's going to be long-lasting, so I would keep the number one waiver priority. Although, frankly, you mentioned off the top, there hasn't been that one guy yet this year, like the big, like Gurley hasn't got hurt and like, oh my God, you need to spend 100% of your fab money on Malcolm Brown. I guess the only guy like that was James Conner, if he wasn't drafted in your league.
Yeah, Jarek going down in the preseason was like that. But that's about it.
So would you use a number one? You wouldn't.
No, I can't imagine the circumstance under which I would.
All right, would you trade away Alex Collins, Bilal Powell, and Kyle Rudolph for Carlos Hyde and Evan Ingram?
No, I would not.
I think I might. Like Hyde is significantly better than Powell and Collins in terms of fantasy. He just is. So you're winning that.
I think Ingram and Rudolph was a saw-off.
So do I. So you're trading away 2 running backs for 1. But for the better guy, I mean, if you obviously have a lot of depth on your team, if this is the case, I would take Hyde over those 2 guys. If you had no depth, I'd probably keep some of that depth. But if you do have another running back as a bench running back and you need to play Hyde, I would make the deal because I don't think that there is really any difference between Ingram and Rudolph, except Ingram's currently hurt but expected to be back.
I think that's a reasonable case, but in the end, I would hang on to the running back depth.
Would you trade Galladay for Brown? Perfect. There's like 8,000 Browns in the NFL.
For Antonio Brown? No.
You wouldn't trade Kenny Galladay for Antonio Brown?
Well, yeah. I'm just making light of the situation.
Okay, let's say if it was John Brown.
Brown. Yeah, no, I would not.
I think that's so. I think on a week-to-week basis, Galladay's upside is just so much better because he plays in that division. He plays inside. Matt Stafford's better than Joe Flacco. Marvin Jones is already banged up. Kenny Galladay. Hello, Joe. But John Brown's the guy. He had 15 targets yesterday too. Flacco couldn't make any completions. But on a week-to-week basis, John Brown has been uber consistent. I think like they're both top 25 guys. Like I'd rather have Brown than a Nunwa. But I think I'd rather have Galladay than both, just because of upside.
Agreed.
Did you see the stiff arm that Kenny Galladay laid down in that Packers game yesterday on the touchdown?
I did not.
It was incredible.
Was it better than the one on Monday night?
No, it was not better than the one on Monday night.
On Conti? No.
Let's see. Russ B says, Kiki number 1. Not a fucking question, you piece of shit, Russ, clogging up my fucking chat. Let's see. I can't now.
No need to snap.
No. I asked people to ask questions. Now people are leaving fucking comments, and now it's skipped the chat on me, so I can't even do it. Should we shut this down? No more questions. That's a good way to get people to stop leaving these comments, right?
They will not learn.
No, they won't learn. All right, Bears D this week against Miami or Houston against Buffalo. Probably take Bears.
Chicago.
I do like Houston's D's a play this week, but Chicago's D is probably.
But I think the Bills are tricky.
What does that mean?
Like, I think the Bills can build something. The Texans are not that great. Like,
the Texans
I don't know. Dallas seemed to be able to move the ball. Dallas doesn't have a whole lot of skill. They were able to move the ball yardage-wise half decently against the Texans. And I don't know. McCoy's back. McCoy looks good. I mean, I think he could be a real problem for the Texans.
Like what does McCoy look good mean? He had over 20 carries and couldn't get to 100 yards.
Yeah, I know.
And Josh Allen has been horrendous.
He hasn't been great, no.
So at least Dak has been not great, but like not the worst quarterback, because that would be Josh Allen. Like the Bills' offense, well, not good, is even worse than the Cowboys' offense.
I think that the Bears will have a better fantasy day than the Texans will.
I agree with you, because I think they're the best defense. And playing Ryan Tannehill's really
stop yelling at me.
Ryan Tannehill really came back down to earth quickly, didn't he?
Yeah, he is the 15th best quarterback in the league, and that's what's going to happen. He's going to have good games and bad
I
games.
don't know if he's the 15th best quarterback in the league.
It gets thin quickly.
It does, but I mean, part of the thinness is him. Like he's thinner.
Yeah.
He's thinner than like Mike Glennon's hairline.
Like, in baseball, they talk about value over replacement players. Like, he is the replacement player.
I don't know the last time any. I don't think I would be dubious that anyone has brought up the word VORP in like 10 years.
Well, people know about. Okay, well, WAR. He's still the replacement player in WAR.
Yeah, I don't even know if he is at this point. Among current starters, Josh Allen is last in yards per attempt, TD percentage, completion percentage, sack percentage, and second last in pick percentage. That's a guy you want to stream against.
Usually, but, I like him.
Okay. Would you pick up Brait or Ingram as a backup? I have Gronk. If you have Gronk, you don't need a backup. Just play Gronk. Why would you? Why
stop picking a backup?
In what case? Like, I know Gronk hasn't been good, but in what circumstance, unless he's on bye, are you ever starting anyone over Gronk?
None.
And if guys like Ingram or Brait are available in your league, you really don't need a backup because these guys are available on the waiver wire. Golladay versus John Brown. Okay, so we go Golladay over John Brown?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think Michael Thomas can put up 20 to 30 points? I don't care what he puts up. Of course he can. He's done it like 4 times this year. Fuck.
Yeah, he certainly can.
How much fab would you spend on Sanu? Like $2?
Not much.
Yeah, $2. I like Sanu. But
I don't. I think he's clearly the third, at least the third best option in receiving. And I think with now the running backs back and healthy, I think Sanu's like the 5th option on that team. I don't want much to do with him. Sanu is actually, if we take touchdowns aside, and obviously that's a big part of fantasy scoring, but he's played better than Kelvin Ridley so far this season. Now that teams are savvy to Kelvin Ridley, it seems like Mohamed Sanu is the one who can just kind of run free now. So I actually like Sanu. And this is an offense that is going to pass like 55 times a game every week. It has to.
I know. And so having any piece of it, like the Hooper thing yesterday was sort of an aberration, and Pittsburgh's really bad against tight ends, and that kind of came to fruition. So I think that when you see them in like a regular week, especially against Tampa, like Julio, Ridley, and Sanu are probably all starts next week. So I think Sanu is fine. You're not going to pick him up and be like, yeah, he's my locked-in wide receiver 3. If you have bad receivers or if you have a whole bunch of guys that you might start, you might not start, in good matchups, Sanu's always a play, I think.
I think he's a borderline flex.
Okay. Drake for Cook. Who has a better rest of the season? I think that's Cook. And if you freak out so much about Kenyon Drake and he ends up like with 8 catches in the receiving game, yet loses all of his groundwork to Frank Gore, that would worry me.
Yeah, although I don't have very high hopes for Cook either this year. Sort of like I don't like either of these guys that much. I guess the answer is Cook, but just barely. Such a slight difference that I probably wouldn't even bother trading.
Oh, see, I would be completely different. If
Cook's hurt.
I understand that he's hurt, but he sat out this week. He had the 10 days off before. If he comes back healthy, he's getting 80% run in this offense. And he looked
perhaps the worst offensive line in football, or amongst the worst offensive line.
It's actually not. That's not true.
It's a very bad.
Did you know that Minnesota's offensive line has been substantially better than Dallas's this year?
Okay, well, Dallas has had some injury problems, and guys are playing out of position.
Yeah, and that's not changing anytime soon. They just put Frederick on IR.
Okay, but Dallas has nothing to do with this conversation.
Yeah, but you just said that they were the worst offensive line of football.
That's why I then corrected myself.
I am going to go look up who the worst offensive lines in football have been so far, sir. But Dalvin Cook is a full-time workhorse back if he's healthy. It doesn't matter. Kenyon Drake is not. So Dalvin Cook is the guy that you definitely want in that situation.
Yeah, I think it's close.
All right, next one. Would you trade Kittle Me Timbers and Chris Carson for Chris Thompson? His other tight end is Brait. I don't think I would.
No, I don't think I would either.
Chris Thompson's probably the best player in that deal, but he gets written out in some of these games. Like, he's really boomer bust. And with Carson...
And he'll be bust tonight, I tell you that.
I mean, I think that both he and AP can both have good games here. There's going to be a lot of points.
It's an AP week. That's all you need to know.
Well,
tonight.
It could be an AP week, but what? I mean, you just said that, hey, what happens if Green Bay gets up on Morris? He'll never see the field. What if the Saints get up 21-0 on the Skins?
AP hates the Saints so much that he will
does
be
he? He said he didn't.
Yeah, that's a lie. I don't care.
So
he does not like that.
I like how you just project what you think these people are saying. So if someone says something, it's 100% true. Unless you disagree, then they're lying?
I think he's being disingenuous by he's being a gentleman. He doesn't want to admit how much he dislikes the Saints. I think he has a big game, and next week is not an AP week. I would be avoiding him for next week.
Listen, you always play, we've seen, you always play AP coming off the bye weeks. I'm with you, but I think that Chris Thompson can independently have a good game if...
I think he could, but I just don't think he does much tonight. I just have a feeling with that.
Okay. So I would keep Kittle and Carson instead of Chris Thompson.
Agreed.
Oh, good. Russ B's back in the chat. This guy's getting fucking blocked. That's what I'm going to do. I'm taking him out. Let's see. Hide. You're out, pal. Just comments. Savvy comments like, buy low on Drake. Drake has his best game of the year. Buy low on Drake. A real savvy, pal. Next one. Is there a good time to sell high on David Johnson? And Davis Maddock has the most punchable face. I definitely do not think that Davis Maddock has the most punchable face, especially with this kisser right here. Definitely the most punchable. The thing is,
you can't sell high on Johnson yet. Yesterday does not. Selling high on him means at least 100 cents on the dollar of what you drafted him for.
He scored 2 touchdowns yesterday. I actually think.
I know, but you could not trade him for the guys who, you can't trade him for Gurley. You can't trade him for Barkley.
But that you cannot.
That's what 100 cents on the dollar is.
Yeah, but it's not, because that's 100% of the that's 100% on the dollar if you made this trade before week 1 started. We have some context to these players now. I actually think you should go buy David Johnson. Tell you the truth.
I agree with you.
Because you're right. He is. You're never going to be able to recoup the value that you drafted him for. And people, he's been playing well, but not great. But he's getting all the what do you feasibly want out of a running back? We talked about Alfred Morris off the very top of the show, that he's a volume guy. If he's a volume guy, he's the only guy on the waiver wire that's going to see that, I think, over 17 touches a game while Breda is out, and that is worth something. David Johnson is that guy, but better, and no one's taking his job.
I agree with you 100%. He'd be the number one guy I'd be targeting. Any league I'm in, with guys with David Johnson, I want him. I mean,
listen, if people are real savvy on Kenyon Drake, which in this chat they seem to be, go trade him for David Johnson. Who would you trade running back for David Johnson? It's tough. Would you trade Joe Mixon for him? I don't know if I would.
Absolutely. I would, absolutely.
I don't know if I would, because Mixon's been really good every single week. If Jordan Howard has a really good week, trade Jordan Howard for David Johnson.
Yeah, I would do that too.
Yeah. Will Crowell finish the season as a top 10 running back, Tim?
Well, yesterday was
The answer is no. The answer is no. He won't.
The answer is possibly.
Because he's going to break off 80-yard runs every game?
He only has to do it 1 or 2 more times.
For what? To be a top 10 running back this year? What are you talking about?
He's going to be I said at the start of the year he'd be a very good play, and you all laughed at me.
Oh, okay. Here's how the chain of it went. They signed Thomas Rawls. You said he was the best signing in free agency. Then they signed. Then they signed. That's exactly what you said. You can go back and watch the show. Then they signed Isaiah Crowell. He's going to be the best free agent signing there was this offseason. And then we get closer to the season. It looks like Bilal Powell's going to play. He's really sneaky. Bilal Powell is the best running back they have. Which one is it, Tim?
Crowell has proven himself to be
until next week, when it's Bilal Powell racking up the points. Oh yeah, he's way better than Isaiah Crowell. Isaiah Crowell.
Just because we have a really skilled backfield, you don't have to hate.
It just sounds like you have the best team in football, according to you.
No, the team has a lot of holes.
Oh, where are the holes at?
On the defensive side of it.
Really, you told me last week that they have a top 10 defense.
Yeah, well, that defense, when it's not 100% healthy, we missed Tremaine Johnson on Sunday, and Plus, we don't have a tight end, and our offensive line sucks. Our offensive line is absolutely a killer. That's what does scare me with that Colts game, is that they can attack the pass rush. As long as our line is awful, we're not going to compete.
Joel asks, is Russell Wilson worth keeping if I have Andy Dalton in PPR? Well, I bet you Russell Wilson's more apt to catch more passes in PPR, if that's really a deal breaker for you. I would just keep Wilson. I would keep Wilson over Dalton. I think it's actually a lot closer. Like, I really like Russell Wilson coming into the year, and I just think he still has his upside stretch to go. Like, he's going to figure it out at some point. It seems like he does every year, doesn't he?
Yes.
So
just about.
And like, he had a really good game yesterday against the Rams. He threw 3 touchdowns. Dalton has been good though, but I would keep Russell Wilson there, and like, I would just have one of them, unless one of them has like a disastrous matchup. Like, if Russell Wilson, like, and what is his disastrous matchup? Is it the Rams? No, it's not. Like, the Cardinals might be the best defense in that division.
I still think the Rams are a better defense, but yes.
The Cardinals have been really good on defense this year.
Sure. I mean, I'm not trying to disparage the Cardinals defense when I say the Rams are better. I think they're both pretty good defenses.
How much fab would you spend on Ebron? I don't know if I would. If Doyle's coming back, if Doyle's going, it all depends on Doyle. Like, and Doyle eventually going to come back, unless he has like chronic hip disorder like my grandma, then Ebron's going to be amazing every single week. If Doyle's
My
there,
advice to people has been hold fire, because sooner or later a big star is going to get hurt. It's the law of averages, and you want to have a full arsenal of money to go after that player's replacement when the time comes.
I don't need immediate help at running back. Freeman was dropped. Should I pick him up? I don't know what Freeman you're talking about, man.
I assume he means Devonta Freeman.
Oh, if that's the case, pick up Devonta Freeman for sure. If it's Royce.
What other running backs What other running backs could he be talking about?
Royce Freeman. Royce
Freeman.
Freeman.
Oh yeah, Royce Freeman. I suppose Royce Freeman. Yeah, if it's Royce Freeman, no, don't just let him go.
Yeah, see, I would let him go too. Like, Denver's.
I was big on him, but he's not as good as Lindsey. That's just a fact, and the Broncos see it too.
Why is Aaron Jones not getting more carries? I mean, I know the game script didn't fit. What?
Because Montgomery Flea Market is their best running back.
I mean, that's not true, but they just play all 3 of them at all times. That's what it's like the Lions. That's what they do.
No, Montgomery's their best back.
Why would you say that?
Because he is just like a mini mall.
Outside of being just like a mini mall.
You saw yesterday in big spots.
I thought you were going to say, hey. You blew it.
I was not.
You blew it. I set you up and you blew it.
Sorry about that.
So outside of big spots.
That's the guy they wanted in the backfield yesterday in that game was Montgomery in the late stages of the game. Excuse me, that's who they leaned on. So that's who you want. If you have to pick a backer or running back, I want Montgomery.
Yeah, well, Montgomery actually is the worst fantasy running back that they have, but just by numbers and such. Even when we look at it, let's go look at what the snap share breakdown was. I think it was like almost dead even between the 3 of them. It would seem that if you're ever going to play one and one breaks out from this role, it would be Aaron Jones. But everyone liked him as a sleeper play this week because you can run on Detroit. And what did they decide to do early? Not run on Detroit. They decided to pass every single play, and they don't run when they get inside the red zone. So I don't know how much any of them are really going to be worth. It would be Jones for me, but you're going to say Montgomery?
Yep.
All right, let's see the snap. I'll have the snap shares up in my column after the show is over. They just take some time to come out, but they're actively up right now. And at running back, Jamal Williams actually played 41% of snaps yesterday, 36 for Montgomery, 27 for Jones. Last week, it was almost completely flipped. Jones played the most, Montgomery played the fewest, and Williams was in the middle. It just seems like what they're feeling on any given week is what they're going to go with. Will Eckler be a TO?
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's a terrible question. Can you rank Kupp, Golladay, Allen Robinson rest of the season in PPR? I'd go Kupp, Golladay, Allen Robinson, unless like Kupp's dizzies force him to be out the entire season. But if not, I would just take Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, Kupp, Robinson, Golladay.
Why Robinson over Golladay?
I still think he is the number 1 wide receiver.
Does it matter? I think,
I think it does.
You could make a case that you could take. It seems like Marv is on the outside looking in. That could be injury related, but you could almost make the case that all 3 Lions receivers are better fantasy players than Allen Robinson.
I get what you're saying, and I think it's very close. I think Robinson. I see Robinson being a more focal point of that offense than because of the availability of catches and just his skill set being a better one. I mean, you can make the case for Golladay. That's fine. Like I wouldn't argue that vociferously, but I just think the opportunity factor is greater with Robinson. I like. I mean, Robinson's a really good wide receiver too, so it doesn't hurt.
I would prefer Galladay over Robinson based on the upside, based on that offense. It would have to be a really concentrated market share for Allen Robinson.
But the Bears get 6 TDs a game.
That is true. I forgot about that. Will Eckler be a top 20? Here's the rest of the question. I think he typed in his question, hit enter, and then it kept going. Will Eckler be a top 20 running back in PPR come the end of the season? He probably will.
Yeah, bottom end, 19th or 20th. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Like, we always have this conversation every year, like with Frank Gore going into the season, not so much this year, but like even Indianapolis, like, well, Frank Gore's been a top 20 running back the past 5 years, but he's been number 19. It's only because he played.
My words coming out of your mouth right now.
But the whole point was you still don't want to own Frank Gore because the only reason that he finished inside the top 20 is because he was one of the few running backs who didn't get hurt. If you actually played him on a week-to-week basis in like points per game, he was like 37th. Eckler's not like that. So
no, he's not.
It's like to say top 20, you need to project out top 20. And I do think that Eckler could be anywhere from like 10 to 20 in the
run. If anything ever happened to Gordon, my goodness.
And then you have that whole baked into it. Just how it breaks down now, the 70-30 split with Eckler in PPR. He's used every single week. Like we talk about some of these split situations where it's like, oh, do I play Collins or do I play Buck Allen? Do I play Gore? Do I play Kenyon Drake? Just play Austin Eckler. He does stuff every week.
And because I won't be on the Sunday show, I want to make this point. For God's sakes, play James White as the running back on Sunday against the Chiefs. Don't pick anybody at running back over him. You're mad if you do.
I mean,
I have to say this every week.
As of the last 2 weeks, since Burkhead's gone out, you can play both of them. They both.
You can, but if you have to pick, play White. He's the guy who scores every single week. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. You've
been right on that. How long do you think Breda's going to be out? We won't know until the MRI.
I would say 2.5 weeks would be the over-under, and I would take the over. I don't know when the Niners' bye is, so
I can look that up for you. The Niners go at the Packers, at home against the Rams, at the Cardinals, against the Raiders, at the Raiders, at the Giants. When the hell was? Oh no, the bye week isn't plugged into this. 1, 2, 3, 11, 1. Oh, so they play the short week. And then they have the bye. So they have 4 games and a bye. So it's week 9, I guess. He'll probably come back after the bye, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Unless he's just not hurt, which it looks like he is.
Yeah.
Is it time to panic as a Devonta Freeman owner? Yeah.
Yes.
You probably can't play him on a week-to-week basis. Like, if you put him in, you have to, like, he ended up with more carries, but he played exactly the same amount of snaps as Tevin Coleman.
Is it time for us to crack each other's skulls up and feast upon the goo within?
I would say yes. He's like a low-end running back, too, that has significant downside right now. Like, it's not a good spot.
I agree.
Unless they decide to make a conscious decision that, hey, we're going back to a one running back system and Tevin Coleman plays he gets like 5 to 8 touches a game. And that's a tough situation, too, where they got behind so early that they couldn't run the ball anymore. This week against Tampa, you'll probably see a more realistic situation where, not to say that Tampa's not going to score on them. Tampa could get up in this game, but Atlanta should at least... What's that?
You think?
Yeah.
Atlanta's the worst defense in the NFL.
Sure, but like we saw this week, Pittsburgh got up early, and then Atlanta couldn't score. Atlanta's going to score and keep. And if anything, Atlanta gets up by a bunch, or it's close the entire game.
Agreed.
So I think that'll be a better indicator with Freeman and Coleman moving forward. Plus, it was Freeman's first week back from a knee injury. Maybe he's healthier this time around. But yeah, it's a pretty panicky situation. Should I trade Julian Edelman and Chris Thompson for Joe Mixon? Non-PPR?
Yes.
Yeah, I would, actually.
Any format. Edelman's the 4th option on that team.
Should I drop Naheem Hines and pick up Marlon Mack? No.
No, I wouldn't either.
I think none of, like I mentioned off the top, none of them are great plays, but Hines is really the only one. Unless all of a sudden Mack's the guy, I just don't see that happening. Do you?
Nope. Do not.
Which Jets running back rest of the season? I'd have Powell.
Crowell
vacillates between 1 good game, 2 bad games, 1 good game. I'd rather just have the guy who's pretty good every week.
Maybe they should just turn him around, and then he could.
And he'd be fine. If I have Fournette and Yeldon was picked up before waivers, who should I go get? I mean, I do fucking rankings, man. I don't know who's available in your league. Pass. Let's see. Jameis Winston or Baker Mayfield this week? I would go Winston over Baker. I have them by 1 spot in the rankings.
Agreed.
Okay. Can DJ Moore become the number 1 in Carolina?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think that this year that will be the case.
I think he will by 3 more weeks. Funches is not that good.
Greg Olsen could be the number 1. I mean, technically.
Well, I don't know when Olsen's coming back.
You know what?
I assume he's not back.
I mean, the answer is no to that question because the number 1 receiver in this offense is Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I guess so. Although they've been trying to dedicate more time to him running and less time to him catching.
Yeah, he still ended up with, what, five catches yesterday? He's still the number one target in this offense.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Should I keep Hines in as my flex? I guess that depends on who else you have on your team, pal. Baldwin, drop or not? I wouldn't.
No, I would not drop Baldwin. No.
Okay, I dropped Anunwa. Thanks.
Well, then you're a fool.
All right, I'm sorry. That guy has ruined the question period because it just skipped on me. So if you asked your question and it was a real question, hey, you might want to put it in again if I didn't get to it. Next week, do you start Doug Baldwin? I'm not doing next week questions. Devontae Freeman for Cooper for my flex, or Cooper for my flex. I don't care. So supposedly the Pats are going to be bringing back Old Gill, is what this guy says.
Shocking.
Next week, would you play... Going forward, would you rather have Josh Gordon or John Brown? I would rather have John Brown.
I would rather have John Brown, too.
Chris Carson or Mike Davis? I think Chris Carson is the guy that you want.
Yeah, I'm still on the Chris Carson bandwagon.
Do you believe Tyler Boyd is coming back down to earth, or did he have an off game against Miami? I think that he's a fine, top 30-ish receiver for the rest of the season. He's someone you can play as your wide receiver 3. The one thing that I know I stress on this every week, and I know that most people know this, and if you're new to the chat or whatever, you're new to fantasy, guys don't have good games every week. I hate to tell you. Sometimes guys have bad weeks. And Boyd didn't have a disastrous week. It was fine.
It's true. Unless you're James White, everyone has a bad week every now and then.
Yeah, Antonio Brown is not going to have 16 great weeks throughout the course of the season. Ezekiel Elliott's not going to have 16 great weeks. Guys have bad weeks. Just deal with it, and don't.
Yeah, you're shooting for 11 great weeks a year, and if you get that, you're dancing.
Thoughts on Jordan Howard this week against Miami? He's a tough spot. Jordan Howard's kind of like Devonta Freeman in a way, except when there's games dedicated to him, he's going to be really good. But he can be written out so easily. This is why we got into it. That's a bet that I'm going to beat you in this year, by the way.
Well, it wasn't just me. Garion was all about that too.
Oh, did Garion also take that one?
I believe it was just Garion who took that one.
No. You laid me 50.5 fantasy points that Jordan Howard would be better than Marshawn Lynch.
I think Garion did that, not me.
No. I have them all written down. That one is you.
It could be. I mean, listen, the thing about I think Jordan Howard is what Michael Turner was 10 years ago. He's a good running back. He's not a great fantasy play when he doesn't get in the end zone. I mean, I still don't think he's going to be a passing option. We're seeing that Cohen is clearly their pass catching back. I mean, I think Howard's at the peak of his value, and if he plays great on Sunday, I would be moving heaven and earth to trade him.
Septic MC points out something good about Baker Mayfield, that Baker has an amazing schedule coming up, which is really true. If you had to pick one up to play moving forward, as your starting QB, Baker Mayfield would be better over Jameis. But this week, I like Jameis more than I like Baker because I only do streaming rankings for the QB. I assume people are asking me about streaming questions. But yeah, the next 4 weeks for Baker Mayfield is amazing. So he would be the guy.
I've been told matchups don't matter.
That's what I heard. I heard that on Twitter as well.
Particularly quarterbacks.
Safest survivor pick if all teams are available in week 6. We'll talk about that on the show with you on Wednesday night. But I would guess that it's probably the Packers, right?
Yeah, I think the Packers are the way to play that. You could make the case for the Vikings too, but I'm not as...
That game worries me. I would go Texans over Vikings.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, like you said, I think the way to play it is Green Bay.
Would you drop Enunwa for Ronald Jones? I would not.
I would not either.
Drop Andercust for Sealy?
Oh, well, Sealy would like to hear that.
He would. So yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, it's Meany on the Monday shows. Meany's just away because of the holiday. So Meany will be back next week. Sealy will be on Tuesday night show with Gary as we discuss the rankings. Who do you think the number 1 running back is in Tampa? I think it might be Ronald Jones, or it could just be no one.
Yeah, I was going to say the answer is not Peyton Barber. Anyone else you say, I will agree.
Would you rather pick up Alfred Blue or Buck Allen?
Blue.
Blue's not going to have a job when Lamar Miller comes back.
That's what you say.
I mean, that's what reality is.
No, I think it's Blue.
Okay, so you, who lives in a world of insanity, thinks it's Alfred Blue. Buck Allen's just a guy you can play every week. He'll be ranked number 28 running back every single week. And he might score a touchdown because he gets goal line work.
No, I like Eiffel 65 here.
Do you know any other song besides Blue?
Does anybody?
I mean, I think a lot of people do, but you don't, do you? As someone who describes themselves as
they would be in the One Hit Wonder Festival.
Oh, I mean, they do have. That's their only hit, sure, but they have a ton of other songs. Let's see here. If I have running back depth, what do I do with James Conner? Sell for whatever I can get? I mean, if you have to sell him for peanuts, you might as well keep him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still going to have a role when Bell comes back.
I don't know if he does.
Yes.
Like, what if Bell gets hurt? Or what if Bell decides to report that? Like, would it be crazy if Bell reports and all of a sudden he doesn't want to play again?
No.
So, like, well, what are you giving him up
He's
for?
going to have to work himself into conditioning. Like, Bell won't be all systems firing until, like, week 9 or 10 anyway.
Sure. And then Connor becomes fairly useless. But, like, what are you getting for him? Everyone kind of knows what's going on. Like, if you could get a viable piece for him, but I wouldn't sell him away just because, he's not going to have value in 5 weeks. I have to trade him. You can still use him until
And he still will have some value, I think, regardless.
Is he a guy that you can ever play?
You can flex him. In certain spots, I could see it for sure.
I don't think so. Would you trade away Beckham for David Johnson? That's close.
Ooh, boy.
That's really close.
That is 100 cents on the dollar. I suppose if you're in love with Beckham, sure. Or if you're in love with Johnson, sure. I think that's a lateral move. If you're desperate at RB or desperate receiver, that's fine, I guess.
Yeah, I think that really depends on your team construction. If you can afford to give up a receiver, make the move. You could probably get David Johnson for less though, because with OBJ coming off the big game, people are like real gung ho about him right now. Like last week, you would have got a whole lot less for Beckham than you could today.
I agree.
So who would you know? I don't care about this week. That's for the ranking show when the rankings come out. Should I drop Brandon Cooks for Taylor Gabriel? No. Unless there's been some report in the last 5 minutes that like Brandon Cooks is dead, then don't do that.
I don't think you even can drop Brandon Cooks.
I mean, a lot of leagues don't play with the can't cut list.
Oh, well, those are bad leagues and they shouldn't exist.
Why? I don't like the can't cut list.
I do.
I just don't like that. There's sometimes there are random people on it that really should be allowed to be cut.
Yeah, but it prevents people from accidentally dropping someone they didn't mean to or whatever. It's a good fail-safe.
That's on you if you accidentally drop someone. I hate to tell you. Going forward, Cooper Kupp or Julian Edelman, that's Kupp, and that's not relatively close.
Agreed.
Is Philip Lindsay the real deal? I don't know what that question means, so that's bad question. Stop asking questions. Ask better questions. Thoughts on Baldwin rest of the season? Wait and see. Honestly, I don't think that he's hurt. He looked fine in the game. They just didn't.
I still think he's a wide receiver 2 going forward.
Then definitely don't drop him. Put it that way. If you want to be hesitant, and not play him and keep him on your bench until you see something. I get it, but I wouldn't drop him by any means.
No.
Let's see here. Powell and Collins for an even better running back.
Sure.
Yeah,
although there are very few of those better than Powell, except for Crowell. Jumbo Jets.
Are you going to viciously turn on the Jets when they get waxed by the Colts this week?
No, because I would not be surprised if they did get waxed by the Colts.
Why? When we were chatting before the show started, you said you consider them in Survivor this week.
No, I most certainly did not say that.
Definitely said it, and you said it wouldn't be close.
I didn't. You are putting words in my. It's because
you're just a liar. You're just a liar.
This is unbelievable. I said nothing of the sort.
Just lying now.
The people for whom I speak believe me.
No, they don't. No one believes you. If you can trade them for a better running back, trade them for a better running back.
Yeah, sure. Can you trade him for Gurley? Go ahead.
All right, last two. See, this guy gets it. He's like, holy fuck, some of these questions are bad. I feel for you. Thank you, Zach. They are bad. Some of them are really good, though, and they're glossing over the good ones that I can't even find them in here. Would you trade James Conner for Leonard Fournette?
No, I would not.
If I could get Yeldon with it as like a package, I probably would.
Oh, well, sure, that's different.
What do you make of Fournette? Is he ever going to be healthy?
Not this season, at least not at 100%. It's a tough spot because if you own him, you almost are obliged to play him if he plays, but you don't like it because he hasn't produced. And, Jacksonville has other ways to attack a defense rather than just giving it to Fournette. I don't know. It's a bad spot. You shouldn't have drafted him. And now you're paying.
Now you know you shouldn't have drafted him. A lot of people didn't realize that at the time.
Sometimes you have to pay for your mistakes, and you can't recover from them. You just have
to. I get that, but those are really tough words coming into week 6. Being like, oh well, you shouldn't have drafted him because he's no good. Were you saying that before the season? Don't draft Leonard Fournette.
I don't believe I loved him. No.
Would you have said don't draft Leonard Fournette?
I don't think I would have said those words.
No, you wouldn't have. So that's great retrospective analysis.
I'm not a fantasy expert like some people.
Hey, there is no such thing. There is no such thing as a fantasy expert, sir.
I am just the voice of the people.
James Conner for Leonard Fournette, I'd probably hold.
I would say no.
If you could
I think Conner is going to have value.
Connor's not going to have value once Bell returns. So if Jacksonville does the smart thing and continues to let Leonard Fournette sit for like another 2-3 weeks, then he's going to be fine when he comes back. But this always happens with running backs and hamstring injuries, that they should always keep them out an extra week instead of just rushing them back. And even like the week past, you think that it is. It used to happen with Shady McCoy all the time when he was battling through hamstring injuries, that he would come back and just suck for 3 weeks. And that's going to happen to Fournette, or the potential for re-aggravation is so strong that if they do keep him out for another 2 weeks, he'll be fine when he gets back. And Fournette is the side that you want to have in that, but I just don't trust him to do that.
I understand all that.
All right, let's see here. Trade offer. OBJ, Devonta Freeman for Antonio Brown and Lindsey? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I would take that.
All right. Man, it skipped on me again. How do you feel about Hayden Hurst? He's a stash tight end too. I mean, we saw it yesterday. He had a catch on the first drive. They played 4 tight ends yesterday. So until that becomes concentrated down, he's unplayable. But I do think that he has the most talent of any of them, in Baltimore at least.
I think that's reasonable to say, yeah.
But is he worth keeping? Would you trade Dalvin Cook for Keelan Cole and Kerryon Johnson? No, I would want Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, that I would make the trade for.
Shepard or Allen Robinson at Flex Week 6. That's for the rankings, man.
Which Shepard?
Who's the other Shepard?
There's 2 now. There's Sterling Shepard, and there's, what's the other? Wayne Shepard, the other Shepard.
Who's Wayne Shepard?
Oh, the other Shepard. There are 2 now.
Who's Wayne Shepard?
They kept calling. Who's the other Shepard? I think his name is Wayne. There's another Shepard.
If I Google Wayne Shepard, it's a Facebook page for some guy named Wayne Shepard, who's like a random dude.
Okay, there's another Shepard. I can't remember who it was. This is not being very helpful, I know, but there's another Shepard.
Because you're bringing up people that aren't real people. Is it Russell Shepard you're talking about?
Yes, Russell Shepard. That is who I'm talking about.
I don't think that anyone's starting Russell Shepard. I don't think that's going to be a question. Anyway.
Probably should have yesterday. He had a pretty good day.
I'm doing the rankings tomorrow on the ranking show. That's for start sits questions. I really haven't looked at it yet. Bortles or Dalton rest of the season? I would take Dalton.
Dalton.
Would you trade Mark Ingram and Golden Tate for David Johnson and Tyler Lockett? Yes.
Yes, I would trade Mark Ingram for nothing.
That's a good idea. Then you get the curse off your team. Although, I don't know. Maybe Mark Ingram on your team would work because it's a double curse.
I would never want to own him, particularly after he stood you up at the Super Bowl. That was the last one.
I know. That was not good. Demaryius Thomas and Drake for Cooper Kupp? I would make that deal.
Yep.
I got offered Julio Jones for Le'Veon Bell. I would probably make that deal.
Most certainly, because when Bell gets back, his chance of injury is quite high, and I think that if guys coming who haven't played in 6-7 weeks, the opportunity to pull a hamstring, pull a muscle is reasonably high. And listen, Connor's going to be their back going forward in future years. I don't think they're just going to shelf the guy for the rest of the season. I don't believe that.
I'm 1-4. Should I trade Le'Veon for David Johnson? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to get rid of Bell.
Yeah, you should have done it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the fact that you're 1-4, even when you're 1-3 or 0-3, whatever it was, you should have got Bell and be like, he was a guy you had to sell if you didn't start well for like 70 cents on the dollar because it's fucking your team.
'Tis true.
Trade offer: Beckham and Dalvin Cook for Melvin Gordon. I'd probably hold. I really like Melvin Gordon; he's great, but I
like Beckham as much as I like Gordon. So.
I don't. I think that Gordon's objectively better, but you also have another starting running back who's a fringe RB1 in there. I just keep him. Baldwin for Bell is realistic. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that anyone is trading you Le'Veon Bell for Doug Baldwin right now. If Doug Baldwin had caught 2 touchdowns yesterday, maybe. Not 1 catch.
It's definitely a trade I would have accepted 2 weeks ago as a Bell owner. I'll tell you that.
But Baldwin was still hurt, though.
I know, but I still and
that's not true, because I asked you if anyone on my team I could trade for Le'Veon Bell, and you said no.
League. I don't mind keeping Bell next year, so I have a jet in my starting roster.
Do I drop Rams D, all caps?
Yes, probably.
They're still decent. They're actually kind of better fantasy-wise now than they were earlier when they were
I don't think there's a D outside of maybe the Bears that I am comfortable saying I'm starting every single week. I'm still going to probably stream outside of maybe Chicago.
Let's see. How is Mahomes on your waivers? Oh, I don't even know what that is. That sounds awful, though. Kenny Wayne Shepherd in week 6, Tim? You playing him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you trade George Kittle for Jared Cook? I would not.
No, I would not either.
Demaryius Thomas and Robert Woods for DeAndre Hopkins? Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Would you trade away Hunt and Ajayi for Kupp and Galladay?
Nope. Ooh. I like Hunt still a lot.
I like Hunt too, but Ajayi is like useless.
Yeah, he is.
And Galladay and Kupp are both starters. They're both top 20 receivers.
I get it.
If you can afford, I mean, It feels like making this trade. You have a lot of good running backs and you have really poor receivers. If you need the receiving help, you're trading away realistically one good running back for two good receivers. If you need the wide receivers, I would do it. That's me. Trade Julio and Johnner, who I think is Connor, for Edelman and Elliott.
No,
Yeah, I would.
I would not.
Well, Connor's, like I said, Connor's going to be relatively useless, and this is maximizing. I mean, getting rid of Julio sucks because Julio is way better than Edelman, but Elliott's way better than Connor.
Well, yes, that much is true.
Like you get,
But I still would-
you get the best player in the deal, so that helps, and you get a guy who's going to be useful past, I don't know, week 9.
I guess it's close. If it's standard, no, I would take the deal. But if it's not, if it's PPR, I would not take the deal.
Okay, see, these are good questions here. Joe Mixon for Carry-On and Edelman, not even close. Keep Joe Mixon.
Nope.
Dalvin Cook and Calvin Ridley for Hunt? Nah, probably not.
I want Hunt.
Why do you want Hunt so much?
I want the running back piece of the best offense in football.
It seems like the only time he can get going is when teams actively just say, like, here, have all you want. And even then, he's
this
still
week precisely. That's what we're going to see.
Well, that's right. It's not a 1-week trade. There's no trade backs.
No, but I think that is the way teams are going to attempt to beat the Chiefs by saying you're not going to pass all over us. We're going to compel you to beat us on the ground.
Is Luck a must-start tier, or do I need to be streaming? He throws 70 times a game. You almost have to start him just based on volume.
He is a must-start.
Trade Amari Cooper for LaShawn McCoy?
Yes.
No.
I want the running back.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I would want McCoy over Amari Cooper, yes.
Yes.
So I misspoke there. You're correct. Would you trade Kiki and Ravens defense for Tariq Cohen? Just don't bother making that deal. That's
No, although Cohen is the better player, nevertheless.
I don't even know.
Cohen is so good.
Who would you start? Would you start rude servers who bother you when you're actively trying to disengage with them, or Doug the Pug in week 6?
The servers.
Servers.
At least they're not bougie phonies pretending to eat fried chicken and drinking champagne in bed and pretending to be a man of the people when they clearly aren't.
Does it make you sad that people love this dog more than they love you, and how jealous you are over a dog that's on Instagram?
I don't agree with any of those statements. I'm not jealous of the dog whatsoever, and people don't love him as much. Most of these are just green screens and fake Twitter bot followers, and I don't buy any of it.
What about when we did the Twitter search on who has more fake followers, you or Doug, and the percentages were you have far more per capita?
I mean, I think that the owners of that Twitter account have done a good job making fake accounts look like real accounts.
Listen how jealous you are. It's really sad, to tell you the truth.
It's not sad. Like it's just a dog who isn't interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, the dog.
The dog might be more interesting than you. How good's your Instagram? How good is your Instagram?
I don't have Instagram.
So there you go. How can you be a man of the people? You can't even connect with the people. Let them into your lives, see what's going on.
That's what Twitter is for.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's two completely separate platforms, Tim.
Well, I know that.
No, apparently you don't. People want to see how you don't leave the house all the time. You just take pictures of you having cigs.
I live a very interesting life.
Then put it on Instagram. Let the people decide for themselves. It seems like Doug is everywhere. He was just over in London. He was in Chicago. He did an event at a mall, and over 1,000 people came up to see him and paid
They were all paid.
And they paid $20 to meet Doug the Pug. When was the last time anyone paid to meet you?
No, they haven't. But
Exactly.
I find this whole thing incredulous.
All right. Would you trade Alvin Kamara for Joe Mixon and Kenny Golladay? I probably wouldn't.
No, I don't think so.
I get it, though. Trade away Carson for Ronald Jones and DJ Moore? No. This guy has asked like 38 questions. They're all like semi-fucking terrible questions.
He's that guy in the fantasy league who wants to make 50 trades a week.
Yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to make 50 trades a week. It's fine. Oh, here's a good one. Trade Devontae Adams and Rudolph for McCaffrey and Juju, 100%.
Yeah, I like both sides of that trade better. The McCaffrey-Juju side.
I think I do, too. I traded Bell and Mixon for Zeke, Lynch, and Tevin Coleman. I like that trade.
Yeah, I do, too.
That's really maximizing. I mean, losing Mixon sucks, but you get Zeke. Mixon's better than Lynch, but not by a ton. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yep.
Trade Devonta Freeman and Chris Godwin for Golladay and Ajayi. I think I would make that trade.
I'd cold on Ajayi.
What's that?
I'm cold on Ajayi.
I'm cold on Ajayi, too. Just Galladay's the best player in that trade.
I guess.
And you're not giving away anything, really. Tyreek Hill for Phillip Lindsay? Good God, no.
No.
Why would you trade away Tyreek Hill? He had a bad game, Tim. He sucks.
Yeah, I've been told that. Ramsey shut him down.
This guy asked if you should trade Lions fandom for Jets fandom.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, I mean, Lions fandom seems pretty bad.
It's a lateral move.
This guy asked if Keenan Allen is still a must start. Of course he is. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Drop Larry Fitzgerald for Alfred Morris?
Not for Alfred Morris.
I actually, if you need a running back, I would. Like you don't.
Not for Morris, but I can understand dropping Fitz in theory.
Me versus you in a no holds barred cage match fight. I would take me in like a million times out of a million.
Well, that's because you're not. That's because you overinflate your potential.
Do I? I mean, you're twice the size of me, and I think I beat you pretty handily.
Well, we'll see. I've seen you in wrestling matches lose.
Have you?
Well, I've heard people say they've beaten you in wrestling matches.
So you've never actually seen this. Someone told you that. Paul actually did beat me in a wrestling match one time.
I can see that. Paul is a very burly outdoorsman.
He is, and he got me in a chokehold, and he was sitting on a chair, and I was really drunk and couldn't move.
As an indoorsman, I don't like my chances.
Should I trade Julio and AP for Crowell and Zink? Oh, sorry, Julio and Peterson, or Julio and Crowell for Zeke.
Yeah, if you can get rid of Peterson, I don't mind.
Oh, so you like Crowell better than Peterson now, huh?
I do. Unless you're me and know when Peterson's going to be good and when he's going to be bad, you don't need Peterson in your life.
Let's see. Okay, two more here. Michael Thomas for Christian McCaffrey? I probably would.
Sister Christian.
I would take Michael Thomas. He's been the best player in fantasy.
I know, but I want Christian.
Why? Why would you? If you agree that Michael Thomas has been the best player in fantasy,
has been, not will be.
Which he hasn't been. Alvin Kamara has.
Has been, yes, of course.
No, Kamara.
But I think Christian will be better going forward.
Okay. Dalvin Cook and Ridley for Mixon. I feel like this guy's asked this question 8 times. I would take Mixon in that situation.
Mixon. Yes.
Morris over Eckler for now. I mean, who do the Chargers play this week? This is why you don't ask rankings questions.
Chargers are playing the Cleveland Browns.
And Morris is playing the Vikings as a big underdog. Probably Eckler this week, if I had to guess. I have Aaron Jones and Isaiah Crowell. Should I drop either one to pick up Chris Carson? No.
No.
Like, well, what's the point?
Exactly.
All right, we've been doing this for a while. Demaryius Thomas for Doug Baldwin?
Yes. Oh, sorry, no. I want DT in that spot.
DT's kind of terrible.
I get that, but he's healthy and could be good, and Baldwin is kind of dinged up and hasn't shown it yet. I still lean DT there.
Carry on and Edelman for Dalvin Cook. I would take Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I would too. Anything you can get for Edelman right now, I would take. People are still foolish and think he's good.
And we will close it off with this. Trade Keenan Allen for Jarvis Landry? Good God, no. Phillip Lindsay and Jarvis Landry for Tyreek Hill? That I could get behind.
Yeah, I want Hill.
All right. This is the one. Just as if we come back in future weeks and you ask questions, here's the kind of question you don't ask. And we'll close with this. I need a running back 1, wide receiver 1 for Patrick Mahomes. Who can I get? I will answer this question the same way I always do. At running back for Patrick Mahomes, offer a trade for Todd Gurley. And when that doesn't work backwards until someone they'll trade for. Like, how is anyone supposed to answer that question? What kind of fucking question is that?
Well, they could be new to fantasy and don't know how it works.
No, fuck off in the chat. Ask realistic questions. Makes me mad. Because there's real questions in here and they get glossed over. Like people who have legitimate questions they want to ask that I can't even get to.
They should submit them to you in writing.
No, but then I have to start monitoring other things. That's what the chat is supposed to be for. Not fucking morons. Ruining my day already. It's not even noon and it's ruined my day. Anyway, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Thanks for tuning in. If I didn't insult you too much, smash the like button on the way out. It goes a long way to help keeping this show free so you have a forum to ask your terrible questions over and over and over. If you asked a legitimately good question, thank you, but I'm sorry if I couldn't get to them all because people left stupid comments, and I'll start blocking people moving forward, and maybe they won't be in it. And I would like to thank, and he'll be back on Wednesday, Mr. Tim Anderson.
Tim Anderson.
That's not my name.
Heard it was. You'll be back on Wednesday?
Yes, I will be.
Talking spreads with us?
I'm looking forward to it. It's been too long.
All right, Paul, throw up the graphic, and we're going to be out of here. Remember to subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience. You see the graphic, Tim? The odds
Yes,
and lines
indeed.
are subject to change. See the website for actual odds. If you, Tim, if you know someone who has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Remember to do that.
Hold on, I'm going to write that number down.
Yes, with that, or if you know someone who's been infected by Gambler. He's in the
Neon claws.
He's in the clutch of the neon claws. Anyway, I'll be back on Tuesday with golf and the rankings for week 6 with Jake and Garion. Wednesday, I'll have Chris Raybon from the Action Network on breaking down the DK breakdown. Tim and Jeff will be back on Wednesday night for all the game picks, spread picks, and preview. We're back to that Friday. Everything's in, and we'll be back on Sunday. I'll be here. Tim won't. Garion will be. So a lot of week to go. Week 6. I'm already getting tired of football, so I got to get some energy back in me. This quitting smoking thing is going very terrible. I'm angry all the time. But I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.